Okay, now we are live.
Oh no!
Hi, the internet of the future, who are hopefully listening to this and thinking, wow, that incredibly long running thing is taking forever to catch up on. There will be people out there who, like the Critical Role fan base, are only 900 hours behind now, and by them I mean me.
Yeah.
I just finished episode 80. I'm getting there. I'm in the 80s now. I'm going to run out of campaign 1 maybe in a month and a half.
Cool.
So that's fun. Then I'll probably take a break before I do too. We'll
I
see.
still technically haven't finished campaign one because there's two one shots I haven't watched yet. I just haven't had time.
That's fair. You can also just hold them out for a rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. But yeah, hi the internet. We're a different thing that's not Critical Role, but it might remind you in some small way of it because we're nerds that are playing D&D on the internet. But welcome to Dungeons and Dragons. And ours is a little bit different because we're not professional voice actors, as I'm sure you've been able to realize by now. But on top of that, we're also playing a bit more anime-ish with our stuff because we are in a Type Moon inspired modern urban fantasy setting, still using D&D. So it's kind of the world of Fate Stay Night, a little bit of Tsukihime because we got some vampire trees up in here. We've got some other illusions from Type Moon if you're into the event, like all of the other Fate nonsense as well. We got things from there. We're pulling from it. We're mostly wiki compatible. That's cool. I see that Streamlabs is still not very effective at telling me what's going on, so I just see a message that says "new," and I'm like, well, that's good. What does that mean? I just see a
I
message.
mean, I hosted the stream on my page, so I
That
guess
might be
that.
new.
Hey, this thing just happened.
What is going on?
What?
Yeah, it just says new, even in the actual one. I don't know. Twitch is fun. Anyway, yeah, if you're listening to this on YouTube, which is probably the case since that's where things last for more than a few weeks, we stream on Twitch. At least at this point in the timeline, we are streaming on Monday nights at about 8:30 Eastern Time, and we tend to go for about 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how tired we are and where the plot lets us stop. But that's where you can find us if you want to wander in live. We will keep an eye out, and if we ever get a group of people in the chat, we might even interact with you sometimes. That'd be fun. Otherwise, you can find everything on YouTube. You can find all the information here in the Twitch stream for the links because until like the YouTube has a sufficient padding of subscribers, I can't give it a cute little short URL, and I'm not going to remember the long one. But you can find a link to it in Twitch. So that's neat. But yeah, we're playing through our game of Fate Dreams End, which is it's completely homebrew. We're playing D&D. We're using the D&D rule set, the D&D character classes and stuff, but there's definitely some adjustments that are made to make it work in the modern setting, and obviously some adjustments to the flavor of all of it to fit more in line with Type Moon and the modern world than specifically, you know, castles and caverns and all that. Although we do have a castle, so we'll see how well that works out. The super high level recap, because I'm not going to go over everything forever, is the year's 2005. Our heroes, Penelope and Anise, are currently helping one of the Einzberns homunculi, the last of them as far as we can tell, recover the castle in Germany that was taken over by a giant vampire tree that was left there by some mossy bastard who showed up and wrecked everything. You're trying to help her out, so you've been cutting off the ley lines that feed the tree so that it'll hopefully be weaker because it's big and huge and scary. And if you can cut off the ley lines, you can sort of starve it out. In your quest, you've also got your buddy Kwaku, who is a descendant of Japanese spider yokai, and he, for the most part, isn't all that much of a combat-y guy, but he's a nice dude. He makes mystic codes, and he's also made wraps, the biggest, friendliest golem you've ever seen made out of spider webs. So they're both here to help out, and after you've successfully cut off two branches, or I guess two of the ley lines that lead to the tree. You've decided to go for broke. Let's get the third and final one that it's probably feeding on, which is on the other side of the castle, but in an area that's known to be haunted. Apparently, this is the place where, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the original Einzberns family, before they were taken over by homunculi and golems, killed themselves. Yay, type moon lore. So happy. And that's probably why the woods are haunted, so I guess we'll find that out when we get there. Other minor notes, prior to this point in time, you befriended some ghosts of fallen Einzberns homunculi, one of which was super friendly to you, even helped you find some nice new clothes, and you also, back at the oddly cowboy-themed tavern, you met a nice guy, as far as you could tell, a nice American named he's called the Bone Settler, but he introduced himself to you as Crosby, and he gave you some earrings that'll make it easier to interact with ghosts, which apparently is going to come up. It's going to be relevant after all, so that's cool. You also, in realigning the ley lines, have managed to direct some of the region's mana into the lake, which means that it'll start recovering a lot faster as the water spreads it throughout the valley. And another one of the ley lines you redirected to essentially a barrier statue that's really cutting off the flow of mana from the outside area. So this tree is now starting to get pretty angry with you. After you redirected the second one, it started sending these tiny little they're called blights. They're tiny little forest things after you. You've also encountered some elementals, so things are definitely getting a little bit more dangerous as you go. But you also managed to put out an all call for any of the phantasmal species of supernatural creatures that live in the area, informing them that at some point soon you're going to be attacking that tree, and it would be really great if they would help out, because if the tree is allowed to stay here, it's going to drain out all the ley lines, and they will all eventually die as a result. So you got a mixed response out of that, because a lot of these creatures are just dumb and don't really understand this. But you got at least one RSVP from someone who implied a higher intelligence and would be along for the ride. So cool. I think I've recapped all the relevant stuff. If anything else comes up, we will recap it as we go. But for now, we're going to go into the creepy haunted woods.
Yay!
Yay!
Also, I changed the display on the chat box a little bit to hopefully make it easier to read black text now. So,
Oh yeah.
see. Behold, text that you can read both halves of. And die rolls that you can tell who rolled them. But as it gets higher up, they'll fade out of that because presumably they're less relevant. You can always mouse wheel to scroll up and down inside that thing as well. So, hooray. Hopefully this will be helpful.
Yay.
Also, we have language tools, which are funny. Yeah, so I guess last time you wrapped up by the lake and you decided you were going to go on to the spooky haunted parts. Did you want to do anything before you do that, or are you good to go? What was that?
You sing like a robot.
Oh, I do hear robot. Am I roboting or are you roboting? Someone is roboting. Now I don't hear you at all.
And we're only hearing every other syllable.
Yeah, you're sounding funny to me too. Let me see if
Oh, interesting.
the internet is mad. Redirecting bandwidth accordingly.
Ew.
Anything better?
I need to.
Internet's so angry.
Something.
Yeah, we are cutting in and out. Let's see how the call looks.
Oh yeah, come on.
Yeah, it's got like one little bar for the call quality.
Huh. Oh, well, there it goes to 3 bars.
Oh, it just needed us to call it out.
Yeah.
So you can hear us now?
Yep, I can hear you now. It seems fine now.
Yeah, you sound fine now too. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, we just needed to call out Discord on its BS.
Clearly.
It just had to be shamed.
That happens sometimes in the other D&D game I play too, and usually the thing to do is just leave the call and return, but that's...
Yeah, if it happens again, we'll do that. For right now, it seems to be happier. As far as I can tell. Oh, it says connecting. Never mind. Maybe it's not happy at all. Gripping radio. New call, who dis? It says green, but I don't hear you. Yay. Gripping internet drama. Why would you do this? Brand new call?
Did it work?
It seems to work.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks, the internet.
Oh, and now I can hear us on the stream.
Oh, good. That makes more sense.
I was like, how
You could
funny.
probably only hear my audio before because I couldn't hear you.
Huh?
Like, before you might not have been able to hear yourselves on the stream just because it was just picking me up.
Oh, I don't know. I had the stream muted
Ah.
so that it wouldn't get confusing.
Yeah, I mute it so it doesn't loop on itself.
But I was just like, I'll unmute it and see what happens. And I thought it would be really funny if I could hear you like trying to talk to us on the screen.
We just had to
We
start
couldn't
communicating
respond.
on the stream.
Oh god.
And that wouldn't make any sense because then the people streaming that aren't the 3 of us would not be able to hear us.
Maximum super delay and everything. Well, it seems to be happier now. So I'm glad it decided to do that before we actually did anything.
Yeah.
Yay, technology.
I mean, we've been pretty fortunate so far. We made like 8 episodes before anything crashed, so that's good.
Shelly, I know they're candy kittens, but that does not mean that they are for you.
She thinks they're shaped like her treat bags. No, they are.
I'm sorry, Shelly.
She's just so expectant, like, those are for me, right?
No.
What part of cat did you not understand? Everything is for me.
Yeah, they're these cute gummy things that are shaped like cat heads that I found earlier today when I was shopping. And
They're
they
like
just
her
fell
emote.
into my buggy. I don't know. There was one minute I was just minding my own business. The next minute, bam! I'm buying a whole bunch of.
Like,
How could this have happened?
oh, Shelly.
She licked it. Do you want it?
I'll eat it.
Okay.
Such is the adventure.
I'm sorry, Shelly. I didn't realize they were shaped like your treat bags.
The ultimate betrayal that is packaging. I thought it contained a Reese egg, but it was actually just soap.
Ooh. But yay, we fixed our technical audio
Yay.
issue. Yay.
Sound is working. Okay, so I guess to pick up from before, did the group want to do anything, or are we good for continuing on to Spooky Town?
I can't think of anything to do before going to Spooky Woods.
I think it was suggested that maybe if you want to, you could double back a little bit and go grab one of the ghosts. If you so desired.
We could do that.
We could.
I mean, you don't have to. Like, it's an option. That was just something that Echo suggested before. Like, you could go get at least one ghost of your own.
How useful would it having a ghost around be, I wonder?
Can't hurt.
How long would it take?
It probably wouldn't take too long, just because they're kind of ever present. Like, if you went specifically to the statue, yeah, it would be a little bit of a backtrack, but you fixed the statue, so presumably they're around. You could just try to summon one.
Play on the kazoo to summon a ghost.
You could.
You are welcome to try.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
Do it. Okay. So Penelope's gonna play on her kazoo to try and summon a ghost.
Okay, roll performance.
Okay, there it is. Oh, 13.
So it's like it's a pretty, it's a fun tune. As the nature of kazoo craft. You don't seem to be particularly more haunted than you were before, though.
Dang.
But while you're doing that, Echo is going to try something. She's just sort of plopped where she was before, and she's tracing some runes in the snow. And about the time your kazoo solo finishes, you actually do get like a slight little glowy face in front of you.
Oh, good.
You recognize her. It's the same one. Well, they all look the same, so you presume you at least recognize the features.
Hi, buddy.
She smiles and doesn't really say anything and just sort of floats around.
I'm going to assume that's the same one.
It's a fair assumption.
A broken cat.
Like, her ways are known to you. She at least has all the same mannerisms as the one you're used to. She doesn't seem to be speaking much. Like, maybe it's a little bit harder now.
am missing. But are we still in the frozen lake?
Yeah, I just don't have it up because you're not going to stay there, I assume.
Ah, okay.
I just thought I would ask in case there was anything you wanted to do before you moved on.
Go fishing. No.
No.
You enter the Legend of Zelda minigame. Alright, well in that case, I'll move on to the next map.
Thank you.
Because maps are fun.
Yay, haunted woods.
Spooky, spooky. Okay, so first of all, you're going to be traveling through the actual woods to get there. Now, as you recall last time, you seem to have angered the trees themselves. So I'm going to ask that whoever is taking lead, which among the lot of you, I assume is going to be one of you two, but it doesn't have to be, gets to make the first survival check to navigate this area without getting near the bad trees. So one of you, or you can defer to one of the NPCs if you'd rather.
I have a +4 to survival.
Please take it.
It's probably wise.
And +2.
So am I going ahead and making that roll, or?
You're welcome to do so.
Eh.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
It's fine. You're making your way through.
I mean, I just had that tug of war with the bitch tree, so.
That's true. So you've got this sort of, you have an interesting experience. So like you, occasionally as you're walking through the woods, you do see the tiny like rustles around you that you remember noticing before, because if you recall, these things blend into the trees pretty perfectly once the trees recovered more of their color. But because you're kind of going through some woods that look a little more dead, you actually can still make them out here and there, but sort of counterpoint, because these woods of sort of dead, they don't seem to be all that, you know, vigilant. They're pretty slumped over themselves. So these ones don't seem to really have the energy to put up much of a fight. They're just sort of rummaging around. So even with a survival roll of an 8, you're not having that much trouble getting around them. Small benefits, just things to remember when you know, presumably turn the woods back on.
You tried turning the woods on and off again.
That's kind of what this whole mission is. But yeah, so like it really just, you noticed some of that. One thing that is interesting as you're making your way through, though, is that the part of the woods you're getting to now, the trees are a little more spread apart. Like, they're definitely here, but you can kind of pick out just walking that it's not quite as random as most of the other forests. These are more like paths. Like, don't get me wrong, it's grassy. The ground is definitely, you know, nature has taken it, but it feels like things are a little more spread out than they were in the other areas. Growing up, you know, a druid especially, like, you're sort of familiar with this. It's almost like trees in the area have been like systematically grown in certain places, and by virtue of trees in certain areas allowed to get bigger, other ones just can't. So there actually is sort of a natural walkway ahead of you, which is neat because it makes it a lot easier for a group as big as your group to actually move around a little bit. So given that, I'm going to give you a brand new map that I believe will be coming over in a second. I just want to add you to it first. I'm learning to do things properly by always adding things from the combat tracker instead of the other things. Saves on headaches. Also, let that be a note that just because something is on the combat tracker doesn't mean it's here to fight. It just means that that's how the system actually works.
Gonna fight everything.
Every last thing.
Gonna fist fight everybody.
I mean, I have it on good authority that at least one of you plans on fighting the entire internet, and threatened to do so within the last 24 hours.
You're not wrong. I might have threatened to fight the entire. Maybe.
It is your right.
Just don't worry about it.
All right. Oh, this map is way bigger than I remember. Okay. Well, you're going to be tiny for a little bit.
Yeah.
Fair.
Like, alright.
Like, well, that's not no. Wait, Raps, why don't you want to be on the new map? Come on, buddy. Get on the new map. There you are. For some reason, Raps didn't want to go.
He's a little
He's a stubborn fellow. Oh, and he's invisible too. What's up, Raps?
Go Raps.
Didn't know you had that spell.
Learn a new thing.
The bird is also invisible.
No.
Bird, stop
Kelly
it.
and I were holding hands, but
I'm gonna set all of you to visible. Apparently, when I drag you from the combat tracker directly to the map, even though you're allies, it hides you. So I guess that makes sense. They don't want you to accidentally give away someone's location if they're supposed to be hidden. So it's a fair default. It's just weird when I'm dragging all of you specifically. Okay. So I'm going to add you and share. All right. So with that, share a map, go. Ah, that's huge. There you go. So, yeah, you notice as you go further on, like the plants are pretty lethargic. It's different from before though, whereas previously most of the plants were like kind of drained clear, like they're just empty. And these ones just look more droopy. Like they're not gonna just shatter when you bump into them or anything. They just look drained. In a different sense, like just neglected. It's almost swampy. Like there isn't even snow on the ground here in any meaningful capacity. But it is all spooky. Oh, it's doing that thing again. Hold on.
yep, I was about to say once again I cannot move.
Now you can move. In theory.
Goodbye.
Huh.
Yeah, like I said before, this map is huge, so even though you can kind of see a grid line on there, each of those squares is actually 4 spots. So weird, but it makes sense later, I promise.
Okie dokie.
But yeah, so you got here by way of the south. So like just to show you context, there's the bottom of the map. So that's where we at.
Ooh.
And you can go ahead and roll me some perception and I'll reveal more of the area around you. Because like all that fog that you see is real. Like it is spooky foggy. You can't see super far away. But what you can see is what's immediately in front of you.
Oof.
Huh?
Ooh.
Okay.
That's another 20.
That is how Anise rolls.
So low survival, high perception, even though I'm not proficient at all in perception.
I think that you roll high or you roll low. I don't think you roll middle very often. Like the entire last 3 sessions have been the result of you hitting a solid 20.
That's fair.
So you get there when it matters, which is nice. Okay, so given that, I'm just going to give you more map. Blam. Look at all that map you can see. There's buildings here.
Oh.
Some
Yep, there are. Oh.
really, really old buildings. Like, the kind of old you can't find in the Western Hemisphere. Like, you know enough from the history of this area from what Echo told you before that the Einzberns have been here for a long time. And encountering some of the phantasmal species, or at least hearing about them, implies that this place is very, very old. And also, with all of the security measures in place, odds are if something happened here and the homunculi don't care about it, it just stays.
Ooh.
So, yep, you got some nearby spooky.
Do we have an idea of where, it's not a statue necessarily, but where we need to go for the ley line?
So you actually do have a direction, personally, just because you've been following the ley lines themselves. You're walking down the path from the castle to here. You're kind of, it's like walking upriver to the sort of the point where it junctions. Like you got here by walking kind of parallel to the castle from the last point. And then once you got past a certain bit, you could just feel the ley line as you were walking as it feeds it. So now you're just going up it. And from here, the direction would be sort of northwest, for the purposes of map direction, like, up and left.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of came in the bottom right of this area. That said, you're not familiar with there actually being any villages nearby, since it's, an area that the Einzberns have kind of cut off from the rest of the world.
A bit.
Just a little bit.
Probably shouldn't linger here if we can avoid it. The place we need to go is this way, and I'll just kind of route.
Okay, you can move. Cool. All right. I will reveal as you go. And because you rolled crazy high in perception, I'm not going to make you roll any more perception rolls here. We're just going to let that count for the duration of the map.
Oh, cool.
It's more fun that way. It's really weird to be super on point for one thing and then, well, you walk 5 feet, do it again. Like, that's just, that feels unfair to me.
Tripped over a rock, and
Now I can't see ever.
Oh no.
I have double eye patches.
Oh, that's so metal and also inconvenient. Okay, so yeah, as you're wandering through here, there's a bit more map for you. You're finding the ruins of very old houses. Like, some of them are kind of standing, but like contrary to the picture here, like they're not in great shape. This is in total disrepair. Some of nature has overtaken these things, although not as much as you would expect. Like, as a druid, you're fully familiar with the idea that the land will reclaim anything that is left to it. And for as long as, at least as old as some of the stuff looks, this whole area should have been completely reclaimed. Like, something's preventing even the local stuff from really making much headway. It's almost like walking through a time capsule.
Move over to the road.
I'm going to move your NPC posse over.
Of course, I'm keeping my eye out for anything dangerous.
That's fair. Wow.
This is really creepy, but also it would kind of make a really cool music video.
That's true. If you were looking to capture that LARP majesty, this place definitely looks like it hasn't been touched since the Middle Ages. Like, contrary to the design here, there's a lot more stone, a lot more, like, you can tell there was wood in these places, but it's long since rotted. It's like wandering through a time capsule. And
Penelope was taking like mental notes.
you're like, this is the most metal thing ever. For that metal kazoo video you've always been planning. It's gonna be Kazoo Nightwish.
Oh no.
Hardcore.
Hardcore.
Bardcore is serious business.
I love parkour.
But yeah, so as you're moving forward, you can sort of hear whispers. Like with Anis's role, she can hear whispers kind of in the wind. Because like unlike the entire forest you've been to up until now, this place does have moving air. It's not like everything's completely dead and stagnant. It's just more somber than empty. So it's kind of nice as a change of pace, but obviously it's not the best mood. But you can hear whispers sort of floating in the wind. You hear little things here and there, ranging from another failure. It's not fair. It's impossible. This joke is too cruel. Other sort of admissions of failure throughout as a common theme.
Well, I think I'm hearing ghosts.
Oh, that's not.
Keep talking about failure.
It's all Luigi. Hello.
No, not you. I'm hearing other ghosts. Something. I'm hearing something in the wind.
They're very loud.
So you can hear them. Good. I'm glad. Well, I'm not.
Very loud.
I'm glad that it's not just me.
So many.
As long as they don't try and stop us, I don't have any quarrel with them.
They're confused. They don't see you.
Huh.
They don't see anything. They just float.
Moving onward, I guess.
All right.
Under different circumstances, Anise would be searching like every corner of these cool old buildings and taking notes, but
Well, you have it on pretty good authority that they're not going anywhere.
this place is haunted, and we've got a mission to kill a tree. I'm hiccuping.
I'm not a big fan of this place either, so that is fair. Echo is noticeably silent here. She's not saying anything. She's got sort of a sad look on her face, but that's about it.
You all right there, buddy?
Oh, this is a sad place. It is a monument to giving up.
Monument to what?
Giving up.
To giving up.
Okay, sorry.
Who lived here before?
The long ago, before the Einzberns were not human, the original family lived in the castle, and the nearby village it wasn't thriving exactly, but it was close enough. It was necessary. They required food and other such things, and trade, of course. But around the time that the Einzberns gave up, the village disappeared. I'm not really sure what happened to the people. All I know is that the Einzberns, the humans, either left or killed themselves, and the villagers are gone. We don't really need that information to do our jobs, so we're not born with it.
Fair. Well, all I can hope is that the villagers left or escaped and that they're not still here. Anyway.
So cheerful.
Got a pretty good idea of where I'm going. Not necessarily what I might encounter on the way, but... And, okay, so you said the trees here just look like dead, not being drained of their mana like the ones from before?
Yeah, they just look like they've grown over time, but they don't get enough of what they need.
Mm.
You've seen way. These are like more normal, just like trees that are in an area that's dead. Like the closest you can think of would be when you see rotting trees, or
Mm-hmm.
like in your experience, you've seen that like when a tree is struck by lightning, it generally dies, but it might
Mm-hmm.
take years and years before it falls. Like this whole area feels like that.
Gotcha.
They're not being supernaturally drained; they're just not really thriving.
Penelope's up to Ghost Buddy over there. How many do you see? I don't see anything. I don't hear anything.
Many and many stars in the sky.
Oh dear. Well, place is haunted.
I mean, we knew that coming in.
Yep.
The only question was, would the ghosts be harmless or would they attack us? And it seems like they're just letting us pass.
They can't see us. They
Or they can't see us.
they see only what they wish to see, and
Ah,
it is limiting.
either way.
Keep moving.
Okay, so you're going the north.
You said the thing was kind of northwest,
Yeah.
so
All right. Well, I
It's
will
over
continue
here
to
in the-
reveal things, and you can just tell me if you want to go in any particular direction. I just want to make sure that I'm revealing what you're looking at.
gotcha.
Like, it's not like DM is trying to railroad you. It's just because I have to physically draw areas for you to see. So, like, yeah, there's a path that's sort of going north into the west from here. There's also just more north. Following the ley line, the path that you're on right now is probably the most direct route, but if you went through the trees above, you'd still get there. Like, it's kind of a twisty road.
Okay. Although it looks like the edge of the map is right there.
Yeah.
So
So that is a fair point to just depart from if you wish. Like, don't think that the edge of the map just means don't go that way. It just means that's where the picture ended. Like, by all means, it's sort of like in a video game where the edge of the map just means we go to another map, not that the world ends. But yeah, in terms of like, if you're trying to not go through the woods and just follow the feeling of the ley line, then the left path would probably be better. If you just want to cut straight there, then you could continue going north through those trees up here, but they're all going in that direction.
I feel like it's better to stay on the path for now. Sorry.
Okay. That makes sense. Then I will tell you that you are actually feeling pretty close at this point. Like, it's coming up. Like, I'm about to share another map with you that will probably solve your problems. So
Yay.
as you go a little bit more in that path, you do leave the village itself, or like I guess what's left of a village. And as you get a little further away from it, you are getting a little bit more of the environment that you've seen before. Like, the trees look a little happier. Not a lot, but a little bit happier. And it actually has been snowing more, so you're getting a little more of that. And now I'm gonna take this map that you've been on away and drop you on the next one. Let this be the important lesson that I will absolutely use maps when you're not fighting things. I know the usual assumption is if a DM has a map, it means you're going to get in a fight, and I really like to break away from that.
Yeah.
I was saying we couldn't have just messed around, revealed the whole map, and found a fight.
I mean, you could have just decided, you know what, I really want to anger every ghost here, and then started a fight. Like, I do have the ghost with stats if you want to fight all the ghosts. I just don't recommend it.
I'm glad that we didn't, and aren't going to.
It's important to have options.
I'm not going to willingly start a fight with a ghost.
That's fair.
The ghost is gonna have to fight.
You're going to have to invite the ghost to fight you via Twitch.
Excuse me, would you like to fight me?
All right. So now I'm going to share yet another map. There you go. And so you sort of walk into an area that, as you get further away, like I said, the trees are recovering, but they're also more spread out. This one's actually a little more interesting for you because, for one, you can feel that you're very, very close to the nexus of this ley line. In fact, it doesn't take a big leap to realize it's probably where that big old rock structure in the middle is. Things to note about it are, so first of all, even though in the art here it looks kind of like a single giant stone plateau, that thing is actually a large series of boulders that have been sort of jammed together. And it doesn't look like that's naturally occurring. Like there's something going on here, whether it's stonework or something else. Like that doesn't just look right. Like none of the stones you've seen in any of the areas, like the quarry area where you found the Lancer statue or any of that, like the rocks look right, but something was done. This was made. You can just tell that as a druid who's used to seeing rock formations, that this is unusual. Something has been made here. And this is also where your ley lines seem to come together. And this thing is like 20 feet up. It's pretty up there.
I'm going to, like, I don't know if this is actually a thing I can do. Oh, and I also can't move.
New map. Who dis? Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna go up to the formation and just kind of try and sense if the boulders are covering anything up, or maybe what the purpose of putting all these boulders on the ley line was.
Yeah, so you can go up and you can just do a straight up investigation, and then your knowledge as a druid can flavor what you can get out of it. Can you walk around yet? I think it enabled you to walk now.
I'm messing around with the map. Nope, I still can't.
I had to click on the token.
Oh, I can move with the arrow keys.
That's so arbitrary. So you can move the arrow keys, but you can't drag and drop yourself?
Nope.
Right, I'm going to move you onto the grid proper in case that unlocks something.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's what it was.
I must have just dropped you all off square and it didn't like that. We're back to like normal size squares again, by the way. So that's nice.
Would this be a nature check or a perception?
For right now, it would be an investigation because you're actually trying to see like what this thing is for and what's going on.
Oh, the dice went everywhere. Let me try that again.
It's more dramatic that way. There you go. That's super solid. Okay.
Why boulders? Where boulders? How boulders?
Tell me your secrets, Boulders. Okay, so yeah, you can tell just from looking around it. As noted, your druidic background involves a whole lot of living in the woods and things like that. So you're at least accustomed to people using stone for things other than what it was, just dropped on the world as. You can tell from inspecting there's a lot going on with these. So first of all, the stones are definitely a collection of other stones, like taken from throughout the area. You can tell from looking around that a lot of these were nearby and they were just jammed in here. I'm going to extrapolate a little bit about how you're getting this information, and you can tell me if any of this sounds like something you wouldn't have done, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So is it safe for me to assume you're going to walk around it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So walking around it, you notice that it's made up of a lot of stones, but specifically there are about 5 stones like spread around it that are very large and similar, and they've actually got a few small runes in them. It's kind of hard to tell what they say because they're super faded. But more importantly, you notice that like these stones being jammed together, you find handprints as if they'd been jammed together as clay or something, and that was just left in place. But these hands are huge. like way, way bigger than your hands or any person you've met before. Like these are bigger than like even Raps's hands. So somebody pretty big apparently put a whole bunch of rocks together. And the sides of it are pretty steep. Like it would actually be kind of difficult to climb this for a non-seasoned climber. So this is definitely not natural, and someone shaped it. But the other thing that you note is like you're a druid, you've seen druids, you've learned from druids. You know there are spells that let you reshape rocks. This wasn't done like that. Like something ridiculously strong just smashed these things together. Like this is not clean. This is not, you know, as far as you can tell, this wasn't even done with Magecraft. This is just straight up something big and strong smashed a bunch of rocks together with enough force that they fused.
Do I have any idea of maybe if they're covering something up?
So for your investigation, you can't really tell if they're covering something up, but you did get a sense from walking around it that the center of the ley line is kind of near the center of this. Fortunately, you sort of got the vibe that, like, while the center of the ley line, by virtue of being a ley line and being part of the earth, being 20 feet higher up wouldn't really be an impediment to doing whatever you would need to do with it. Like, if anything, they've just made it harder for something to randomly wander in and mess with it. Like, that could be the function. It could just be done for the purpose of making it so that not just anyone can draw from the ley line. Like, they have to have some degree of mobility to get there. You can't see what's on top, though. Like I said, this thing's like 20 feet up.
Okay. Guess it's time for spider climb.
The bird just flies up.
Of course.
As is its way.
Alright, and I'm just gonna climb.
You can do so. Well, I guess we should probably go up similarly too. Alright, I humbly request permission to carry you up the rocks.
Everybody
Yes,
on
please.
wraps. Oh,
Yeah.
do I need to come back down and carry someone up?
It seems like they've got this handled. Like, if you remember from last time, Kwaku was able to carry Echo up, and Raps just is Spider-Man in a lot of ways and just easily carries Penelope up.
Woohoo!
This could have probably been arranged a different way, but that's what worked last time. So that's what you're doing this time.
Ooh.
Alright, so you are all now up here. So some interesting things that you note once you get up here finally. Like, you are pretty up. You're like 20 feet up easily. You don't really want to fall off. But also, like, this actually feels oddly safe. So contrary to like the roughshod sides of this thing that were all jammed together, the top is super smooth. Like, almost like a floor. It's smoothed across. Like, there's some snow sitting on it, as you can see from the art, but this feels way more man-made or man-manipulated at this point. Like, you could totally just lie down on this and actually sleep if you were willing to do so. Like, this isn't, I mean, it's still a rock. Like, it's not soft, but you're not worried about cutting your bare foot if you were to run around on it or anything like that. And it's probably the safest place you've been outside of Echo's cabin, since presumably nothing wandering by could climb up here.
That's fair. I guess I'll turn to Echo and ask, so this was clearly man-made, or at least not naturally done. Any idea who or what could have smashed together 5 giant boulders to make this?
I heard the
So,
story, but I never really believed it. I believe this was done by the heroic spirit. The more recent one, the one that was summoned a year ago.
Kim, the player, was like, "Oh, it was Herc for sure."
Yeah.
It was Berserker, absolutely.
It's not a big guess here, but yeah, like in character you don't know, but
There were very, very large handprints and some runes that were too faded for me to read.
the yes, I did see this place once before it was like this, so this is recent.
Ah,
When I was much smaller, there was a point when I was actually smaller. Um, I remember seeing it as 5 stones, and they were tied together. It was a bit of a ritual site, but the the large servant did not seem to care for that. He reshaped them as such. I believe it was a favor for his master, but I never really understood it. I did not speak with them much. I was still very young myself.
so does I forget if the group just if anyone like actually told us what a heroic spirit was, or if we determined that maybe like Anise or Penelope would know anything about heroic spirits or anything like that.
I think that Kwaku gave you the super high level overview back on the train.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what
I
I
mean,
thought. It's
yeah,
been a while.
heroic spirits, like, just between whatever we said on stream and what would have come up in extended conversations on your much longer traveling time than what we covered, it's fair to assume that both of you know that heroic spirits are, like, familiars that are summoned by mages, and that normally you wouldn't be able to manifest them because it takes so much mana to ground them in reality. But as part of that ritual that goes on in Japan, they manage to summon 7 of them, and then they make them fight each other, and then the winner is supposed to get a wish, and that the Einzberns are one of the families responsible for it. You also know from what Echo was saying before that they participated in all of them, and the most recent one was obviously a year ago, because like you did know about the Fuyuki thing regardless, given the major news tragedy, and that they had summoned a servant there. So it checks out. You didn't hear like who the servant was or any of that. You just knew that they summoned something.
Gotcha. Well, all right. Very interesting place, to be sure. Yeah, I guess I'll sit down and start doing that ritual again.
You are welcome to do so. All right, let's get that started.
Oh, I already rolled a nature.
That's a good roll. Yes, you can keep that.
Okay.
I mean, we knew what you were gonna do next. That's fine.
I'm feeling pretty confident in my abilities now after having done it twice and having that like
You've done it under worse circumstances before too.
tug of war match with the bitch tree.
Yeah, like you didn't actually have anything pressing you this time. Before there, both times you'd seen those needle things looming nearby. This time, it's actually relatively peaceful. All right, well, I'm gonna dump your spellcasting token on there because I have it, and that's fun.
And I guess I'll say, just stay on your guard. Make sure I don't get attacked by ghosts or blights or anything this time. But this place seems to be pretty safe, despite what all is around it. Are you just running in circles around me?
No, I just.
There we go. I'm gonna make this thing super big because this map is not. Alrighty. Yep. So you were starting the ritual, so given that,
I can play the kazoo for you.
do what? Are you playing the kazoo? Are you inspiring her?
I was just like, I'm out of inspiration, but I can play the kazoo for you if you want.
Yeah, I'm good. I am quite good.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Change your mind. Let me know.
I'm here like IRL sitting cross-legged on the couch with my hands like steepled and my eyes closed, even though we're not playing on webcam and no one can see me.
I mean, that's fair.
Method act. I am a boss ass bitch.
Um.
I'm also messing with our cat.
Okay. So,
Tugging on her tail. Ding
because
dong.
you started this one out so successfully, um, you're actually going to get a lot of information up front. So you're getting all of this information at once, so you don't have to act yet. This just means you have enough time to process it before you choose to do anything. So for the first ritual, way back at the rider statue, you sensed that the mana was flowing through the region and it was getting pulled into the tree. And you redirected it away from the tree and towards another statue so that you could reinforce the region. The tree didn't really put up much of a fight that time. You just sort of did it, and it worked out. The second one, which was near the lake, which we just did last week, what you observed was that the tree was clinging much harder to this one. It was absolutely resisting you. It was a tug of war. And as you continued back and forth with that, things were waking up around you. It was putting up a lot of defense. It was very clearly cognizant of your actions and trying to stop you. This one is different from both of those because while the first two were sort of getting pulled directly toward the tree, this one's split in two directions. Like, the tree couldn't actually grab all of it. It just grabbed one flow of it. You know, the one that you followed from near the castle down to here. There's actually another flow that's going directly down from where you're at right now. Down through that stone that you're on. And when you're pulling the mana between them, you're noticing that the mana going towards the castle is... It's really hard to shift away, almost like you're trying to take away the lifeline of something, and it's doing everything in its strength to hold it. But it's not a strong grasp, and it's not like it's pulling on something firm. This is kind of like trying to pull a straw out of someone's hand. Like, you could use significant amounts of force, but the thing that you're pulling is ultimately really smooth and hollow, so you can't really get a good grip on it. And that's what it's doing. Like, you're actually in a much stronger position of power here because all it can do is pull, but you're actually rooted at the source of it. Like, you're at the branch, so you've got the entire strength of the thing going directly down to brace yourself with as you pull. So rather than going through a long and drawn out back and forth with it, you can just pull it away. You've still got to send it somewhere, but you can pull this right out from under the tree.
Do I have any sense of where the other half is going other than just down into the ground, I guess?
You kind of got a sense from how you followed it here. So, like, the first one, it went through the village and then to the tree. But it stayed fairly surface level. This one goes down through the ground, but it's kind of hard to tell where it goes because it doesn't really seem to come back up anywhere. Usually these things flow like rivers on the surface, and like, yeah, you know that rivers occasionally go underground, or they have sources that are, you know, everything from, you know, melting ice on, you know, a mountain to underwater channels or whatever. This one's kind of weird because it's like it goes down from here and it goes towards the castle from here, but it's kind of hard to tell where it comes from. It's just pulling in from the region, and a lot of it just goes straight down at the place that you're at now. The rest of it's just sort of spread out almost evenly in a giant fan away from the castle. You're kind of at the delta of a lot of rivers. So that actually makes it hard to direct it somewhere else because it's coming in from everywhere rather than going out. You can point more of it down if you want to do that, or you can follow a bit of a different practice, something that you did learn from your, druid teachers, which is kind of like letting the land decide where it wants to go, like sort of giving it back to nature to flow the most natural path. That's a lot of the time the actual practice. Like what you've been doing here of forcibly pushing it away from something is more unusual. That's more like being a beaver with a dam, whereas your process is usually just to like maybe shunt it a little bit to the side of the big city that's going to corrupt it, but otherwise letting nature take the wheel. So that's an option. You can point it down. You can sort of sit with it for a while. Like you're not fighting for it anymore. You've got time to think about it.
I guess the most logical thing to do would be to, just kind of let nature decide where it wants it to go.
Okay. All right, so you can do so.
Back towards the tree. That's a no.
But not back towards the tree, right? Well, yeah, that's the thing. You're essentially, you're sort of pushing it outward because, as I said, like there's a whole bunch of tiny little inward directions to where you are. And then it goes down or it goes to the tree. So if you're pushing it back outwards, you can kind of push it sort of out and at an angle down so that you're sort of creating a loop in the direction they come with, but more downward, similar to when you hit the groundwater over at the lake. You're just pointing it back down into the groundwater instead, and it can spread out through more natural courses. Like the tree can't call on it because it would get it through this place. So you're still not letting it get it back. So is that where you're going with it?
Sure.
Okay. In that case, you can do one more nature roll just to make sure you point it the right way.
And I've got no earthly idea why the other half of it is going down and just kind of never popping back up, right? That's not something I've seen before or heard about.
No, that's just kind of weird. I mean, your best guess would be that if it's going down, then something below you is, pulling it in the same way that the tree was pulling it in. Like something in this area is simply absorbing its own mana. Like technically anyone who's using mana is drawing it from the land. Presumably whatever is down could also be drawing it from the land. It doesn't mean it's necessarily like a big toxic tree or whatever. It could just be something lurking beneath the surface. There's no telling. It's a big and weird world. Okay, so at this point, you do start to redirect it. You're pushing it away. Something different does happen, though. Something separate from your previous experiences starts to occur. So as you're sitting here and you're chanting, and your eyes are closed and you're focused, you actually start to see things. You're starting to see. It's not really fair to call them visions. It's more like you're seeing like fuzzy memories or like dreams. You're starting to see stuff going through, it's really like you're looking through like the memories of the land itself or maybe something nearby. So I'm going to start to tell you what you see, but while I do that, I'm going to get Penelope can also roll a perception check to see what she can see. Keep everybody active.
Not bad.
That's pretty good. Okay. So as Anise has been doing this ritual, she seems to be way more confident this time than she was last time. Like she's not taking any shit from a tree or anything. She's just doing her business.
Put on some shutter shades. Those don't exist yet.
You've got pixel shades at this point. You're just like a proto meme.
Put on some aviators.
You pull out your like red tinted glasses and put them on over your normal glasses.
Just to flex.
Yeah, just as a total flex. And so she seems to be doing pretty good with that. just looking around. You don't see like the trees rustling or anything scary like that happening. You do notice, however, that your visible ghost friend, who's floating around, has just been doing this for a while, sort of floating around in a circle, almost like a child who's bored, as things are going on, and she stops. And when she stops, she starts looking around.
Just
Things she can do. And when she does that, you look up and you can actually see something which you wouldn't normally be able to see, but you kind of feel like a little tingle in your earring. You're not. I don't think you actually put in the earrings that you were given, right? You're just carrying it.
oh, that earring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could feel a little humming in it.
Like, wearing like 50 earrings.
Right. Yeah. Like this is the one that you got from the necromancer.
That one.
Yeah. So you're feeling a little bit of a hum in it, and at about that point, you feel your eyes getting pretty heavy. And so your eyes close too, and then both of you get to see things. So, neat.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to do something that... I'm going to see how well this works, and that'll determine if we ever consider doing it again.
Oh, boy.
Yay! Experimental D&D night.
I mean, we already had the technical difficulties with the call, so...
Yeah.
I already told you, I'm just gonna burn down the whole forest.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
there's time. There's time. Okay, so we're going to start with what Anise is seeing. So Anise can actually, the first thing that she experiences isn't a sight, because like your eyes are closed while you're focusing on this. You just sort of see the flow of mana and the ley lines around you. But you actually hear a woman's voice, almost like it's being whispered in your ears. And she says, "Is this it? Is this all you want? If you fail, will that be your legacy?" And then, obviously hearing this is disturbing, and you kind of involuntarily open your eyes. But when you do, you're not out here in the ritual site anymore. You're in a different place. And what you see is this.
Question mark. Oh.
So you find yourself in somewhere. This is an odd place. Like, it actually is kind of in black and white, by the way. That's not just an aesthetic thing. Like, that really is it. Like, this is a fuzzy thing. As I was saying before, it's kind of like you're seeing almost like someone's photo album of really old pictures. The world around you is a little fuzzy. But yeah, like you're in a dark room. Like, you can sort of sense that there are colors here. You're just having trouble really gleaning them out. But you're in a big room. As you can tell from the picture, there are these big cylinders, these glass-looking cylinders. They seem to be connected to machines of some kind, and there are people floating inside of them. And those people all look very, very similar. There are men and women inside of them. They're just sort of floating under the limited lighting that you can see here. And somehow you just know like the way how in a dream things just make sense and you can understand them, even if they don't make any sense when you wake up later. You know that this is somewhere that you work. This is somewhere that you spend your time. Like, you do work here. And you understand what these machines are for. And you also realize that what you're doing right now is you're working on one. You're making changes to it. Now, Anise is not a technologically savvy person, but somehow you know what to do. Your hands are moving automatically. You're making some kind of adjustments. In fact, because you're making some kind of adjustments, go ahead and roll an Arcana check. Okay.
Well, fit.
It's all good. So like you're messing around with whatever these machines are, but like you know that there's some stuff you're supposed to do, and you're making your way through it. Like you might not be doing the best job, but like there's knobs, there's things to connect, and you're doing that. Seems good. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You're just making some adjustments. While you're doing it though, this does bring you face to face with the tank that's in front of you, like the big glass cylinder. And yeah, there's like a pretty much a naked person floating in it. But when you look up at it as well, you can actually see your reflection in that tank. And this is what you look like.
Hey, pretty lady.
So that's who you see when you look in the reflection. Seems legit.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, what could happen? So that's who you see when you look into it. And as you keep working, you're messing around with devices. You're doing what you can. Like I said, you've got a job to do. This is your job. You're just going to keep at it. After a point, another person walks up to you.
Really?
He looks like this. He's even got that weird beret thing. And in the interest of keeping things going more fairly than just throwing it all at you, what I'm going to do here, the thing that I want to try, is Fantasy Grounds has a thing where I can click on a button and it will drop pre-written text into the chat box. And that allows you to see who says it. And what I want to try is, because you're obviously sort of taking a ride in whoever this person is in their memories, I'm going to give you some dialogue and you can stick with it or you can deviate from it. But it'll give you kind of a starting point for what your brain at the moment is telling you you're supposed to say and do. And I want, for the purposes of these scenes, you're going to be researcher, and this other person who's walked up to you, I just got listed as peer because they're also a researcher. And I want, Zip, the voice of Penelope, to take on the role of peer and deliver that dialogue, and then you will have the opportunity to respond as the researcher. Like, there's not going to be a ton of it. We're not doing a stage play, but this adds a certain surreality to weird sequences like this. So let's see if it works. Okay, so she's
Okay.
peer and you are researcher.
Oh, in the chat.
Yep, you should be able to read it in the chat.
Oh wait. Okay. So
Barely.
who has the beret?
I think that's
You have the beret.
Okay.
You're a beret man.
I'm a beret man. Yeah. Okay. The names in the chat are hard to read, but
Yeah. It's still black.
okay. So I'm here.
I'm I'm red eye lady, and you're.
Okay. You look exhausted. Are you sleeping enough?
Yes, I'm fine. Actually, would this person have my accent? No. Yes,
It's in
fine.
your mind. You can make her sound however you want.
Been working extra hard to make sure we don't fall behind.
He nods slowly. He seems kind of skeptical, but he's not going to push it. You both still got a lot of work to do. So you continue working. He goes over to his end. He's apparently got a bunch of pods, and you get back to work on yours. But while you're working on it, your mind actually wanders a bit. And when it does, what you can see are memories of why you look kind of sleepy. You've been sort of going out a bit lately. You know that most of your life you've just been focused on your projects, on the work, on making sure everything works out. But uh, lately you've just been feeling a bit empty, like it's not satisfying enough, like all work isn't really working out for you. So you decided to go into town and just get a drink at the pub. It's a bit atypical for you, but you do it. And when you did, you saw a, a performer that was actually a traveling singer. The singer, he is playing instruments. He's a bard of sorts, not the supernatural kind, but just someone who travels and plays music. Um, you're not really sure why you felt sufficiently down that you would go into town and catch a show, but you did, and you enjoyed it. And then you went back the next night, and I don't know, something about it just made you feel a little bit better, like you were digging it. Um, you've been having enough trouble sleeping lately, but you had the first good night's sleep after you went out and actually saw someone performing. It was something outside of work that gave you satisfaction. So that was nice. Interestingly enough, after the second night when you were there, he walked up to you at the bar, and the two of you got to talking. He didn't pry too much about your life. Like, you never talk about your work. Like, you know better. Like, you obviously work in some form of magecraft, and you don't really need to tell someone these things. But he talked well enough about traveling. Like, you've spent your entire life here. You've never left. You've never seen the world. And this guy has plenty to tell you. It sounds kind of interesting. It's like a path that you never really walked down. And yeah, thinking back on it, like, you know, that was something. Like, you've been doing this for a little bit. You've been enjoying it. It seems nice. Like, I mean, you don't really think you've got any interest in this guy per se, but he sort of represents a life that you never really got yourself. So that's pretty cool. So you've been going there. You've been staying up kind of late. It's starting to actually affect your work. You're having trouble focusing, which is frowned upon. You're doing important stuff. Like, the work you're doing here could save the world. But still, like, it's nice. It's nice to maybe, you know, have a break every now and then. And now roll a dexterity save.
What? That's sudden.
Very sudden.
Oof.
Okay. All right. So as your mind was wandering to this guy that you know, met at the bar, whatever you were doing on that tank went horribly wrong, and you end up breaking like a nozzle or something. All you know is that you were letting your mind wander, and now whatever goo is in that tank is spraying out and blasting you in the face. It doesn't hurt, but obviously it's not a good look to be covered in what you can now tell is somehow a more of a green liquid, like a clearer green liquid. So that's getting all over the place. The tank is starting to drain. Like, there's a guy in there. Obviously, as it's draining, that's not really working out great for him. He presumably needs it from your understanding of what's going on. So you're gonna have to fix this pretty quickly. Give me an Arcana check. See if you can fix it.
Well,
Okay.
I think you were right. I either roll real
Yeah.
high or real low.
Well, this makes for good storytelling. So yeah, now that you're really super focused on, oh no, this isn't gonna happen. I'm not gonna let something happen to this guy. It's not his fault. Like, I'm gonna get it right. So with an amazing natural talent for this, you don't even think about what you're doing. You just start grabbing pieces, crossing them together. You manage to seal off the leak by, you know, like tightening things in the appropriate places, but also just grabbing stuff. Like, you had a bunch of parts nearby for doing maintenance on other ones, but you start grabbing things like you've been possessed by the ancient god of machinery or something, and you're just snapping it all together. Like, when you're done and you look back at this thing, you might have actually made it better than it was before you broke it. Like, you didn't design these things, but you maintained them, and you did something to it. Like, you don't even know what you did, but it seems to work amazingly now. Still, though, like, you did lose some of that liquid, so you're going to have to replace it. You're going to have to put some extra time in to fix this problem. You probably didn't lose the guy in there, which is good, because he's obviously going to have to keep cooking. But yeah, that could have been really bad. That could have gone horribly for you, but it didn't. You fixed it. It's good. Once you finish rigging up whatever it is you're doing to it to fix it, you put the plate back over it, and you can kind of just casually whistle like nothing was ever wrong. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You're still covered in this goop, though. Like, that's not ideal. But you know what? You've got a spare uniform. You can go quickly change out of it. No one needs to know this happened. And so you do. You resolved it so quickly you had time to go get changed to pretend nothing went wrong. Shortly after you do that, after you get changed on that, and you refill the tank, and you get rid of all the evidence of your mistake, that guy from before walks by again.
I thought I heard something earlier. Is everything here okay and on schedule?
I've made the necessary adjustments for today's batch.
Good to hear. Let's call it a day then. You grab something, eat, and get some sleep. You need a little time off. It'll do you good.
Okay, with that, the two of you do, like, you shut things down in here. You leave all of your people floating in their pods. You know, natural, as you do. And you start to make your way out of the castle, and this is kind of weighing pretty heavily on you because you've been on top of your game forever. Like, you're the best at running these experiments, at working on the project, like, you know, the goal. And this is the first time you've ever messed up. Like, you covered for it really quick, but this doesn't normally happen. Like, you're distracted. That can't be good. Like, if the work you're doing here is super important, it could save humanity. It could cure all of the world's problems. It's the most important thing ever. And can you really afford to be distracted when the price of failure is just so high? Like, I mean, is that okay? But still, like, as you're walking through, so you leave the big room, and you see that you're inside of a castle. It's stone walls, very, you know, classy and traditional looking. The room that you were just in looks comparatively high tech. You have no idea what time period this is, but that room looked really sophisticated, ahead of its time. The one that you're in feels very old. There are like sconces with torches on the walls. It's night and day difference. But as you're walking through the castle, you do pass by a window. And looking out the window, you can see a giant, vibrant forest. And there's a village. There's a village just down from the base of the castle. And there are like some lantern lights, some torch fires. It's very, very old and low tech. Like, Anise has been to things like that before. Like, this is more your speed, usually. This doesn't look very modern. And when you do, you feel good. Like, you feel like that's maybe where you want to be. You should probably get some sleep, but you don't have to go to sleep immediately. It'll be fine. And so given that, you decide to head down to the village. That'll take a second. And Anise recognizes this village. You just walked through it. You walked by these very houses. But now it's not all busted up. Like, the whole thing is actually here. You can see the world that came presumably before now. And the village is interesting. It's a neat place. Like, the person who's fascinated by, you know, history within you, or at least like the methods of the past. Like, you've always heard about, you know, times before when the world was less loud and less polluted. Like, the sky here is absolutely beautiful. You've never seen so many stars, even in the present. It's just sort of a fascinating experience to see the world here. But for her, this is just a normal life that she's living. And she's walking through the village. There's there's a bar up ahead. You know that. Like, that's the one that you've been going into. Well, I say a bar, it's a pub. It's where that guy plays his music. And you're sort of repeating to yourself, like, this won't work. He's been really nice, but I'm not. It's just, there's too much important going on. I need to break it off, but it would be best if I told him so that he doesn't wonder. And you can hear him playing music inside the pub. You know it's him. You've heard these songs several times before. But you don't want to go in. You can't bear to face it right now. While you're standing around outside, though, like between the songs, you can hear people talking. It's in a language that you understand, but it's hard for Anise to really know why she understands it. It sounds kind of like German, but very old. But what you can piece together just from listening in is that they're talking about the local news that came in with the traders. And the news is that the king has finally had a legitimate son. It's King Arnulf has finally got a legitimate heir. Ludwig, who could probably pose a problem for his illegitimate son, who is currently in line to take over the throne. You are welcome to roll history if you want to see what that means.
Yes, I do. Find my history. There it is.
Okay.
I can't roll anything but 1s and 20s, I guess.
Well, it's giving you a lot of information. I'm really impressed by it. It means I get to use all these notes I wrote. So that works for me.
I didn't install any sort of anything.
I don't think you could. I think it's just funny. Okay, so yeah, with your suspiciously complete knowledge of European history, from all those books you read, apparently.
I was bored as a kid and read a lot, I guess.
I mean, books are what you have when you don't have TV.
True.
Well, yeah, your history of Europe. King Arnulf was the king of the region of Germany that corresponds to, where you are in the present. But that was a long time ago. Specifically, his first son, who was known more colloquially as Louis or Louis the Child, was born in the late 800s, like just before the end of the 9th century, however that works, math. Yeah, specifically because you've got ridiculous knowledge and you hit a 20, I'm just going to tell you, the year is 893. That's crazy. This puts a lot of context in Anise's head for the fact that you've got a relic from over 1,000 years ago that seems to be in remarkably good shape for as old as it is, in the form of this village, untouched by time in a lot of ways. So cool. That was a long time ago. In terms of mage time, you would also just be aware, since I'm not going to make you roll Arcana after you hit a 20 on history. At this point in history, the Mages Association has been active for about 500 years. Like, it was founded before, but it finally really got going around that point. Like, you're about, 400 or 500 years after King Arthur allegedly happened. And that's considered a big deal by mage timelines. Like, Camelot is generally taken to be a thing that happened in one form or another. But in the time period that you're in now, this is more like Holy Roman Emperor stuff. There's a lot of conflict and consolidation of power spread out through the area. There's some succession battles. A lot of stuff involving popes, as weird as that is, including multiple popes at one time, which leads to drama. So that's cool. There's a lot going on. So, like, you're kind of at a point in time when the Mages Association is sort of rising in power, and the church, while it has a lot of power, it's split. So the church is kind of busy with infighting, and mages can get away with a lot of crap. So that's fun as a historical footnote. Might not matter as much for here, but now you know when you are. So this is definitely a while ago. That also makes the level of technology in that room that you were just in suspiciously advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even for mages, that was way ahead of where it should be for this time period. Like, that kind of stuff you'd maybe see in, like, the Atlas Institute, but mages of this time period, like, they're doing alchemy and things like that. And you know enough just from hearing about the Einzberns from Kwaku before and just their general reputation in mage communities that they are alchemists. That's their thing. And no one makes better homunculi than they do. But this still sounds pretty advanced for them at this point in time. So that's pretty weird. Yeah. Cool. So that's when you are. Well done, 20. So anyway, like, that's local gossip. You don't really care. Like, the outside world doesn't matter to you. Your focus is your work. It's your job. You know enough to know between what you heard from, you know, your actual homunculus friend in the present and the stuff that you heard from Kwaku that the Einzberns are known for their research into what's called the third magic, the materialization of the soul, like more commonly known to a lot of people as Heaven's Feel. And it's something that they were working on for a long time. That their family founder 2,000 years ago achieved it. And none of them achieved it ever since. But that they spent hundreds and hundreds of years, even to the present, trying to figure out how to do it again. So you've got a pretty decent guess, based on all of your knowledge of history and context, that that's what the big work is. And since she seems to think that this could save the world, maybe they're trying to find a way to do it. Maybe if they can actually do Heaven's Feel, they can spare humanity from all the suffering of having a physical body that can get sick and get old and die. It's a pretty heavy calling. It would explain her passion for it, at the very least. Whether or not that's doable could be argued, but certainly what they're trying. But anyway, yeah, she hears gossip. She doesn't care. That's irrelevant. You've got much bigger, longer-term plans going on. After a while, the music dies down. You can tell that the guy is packing up. Like, you remember from the first night when you were here, when he didn't talk to you or anything, that about the time the show was over, he packed up and he just sort of left and he walked out the back. So if you want to talk to him without an audience, without a crowd, this is a great time to do it. So that's what you're going to do. Another thing that's weird for Anise is that you have dark vision. You are in the memory / body of someone who doesn't. So it's super dark out here, give or take the light from the torches and the buildings. And you actually are carrying a lantern. You were seeing by lantern. So that's new and different. But you're stepping your way around and you're going to meet up with the guy. And you do. You see him coming out the back. There he is.
What a dweeb.
I know. I was just about to say something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Take a look at this guy. Wow.
Yep.
It's Luke Skywalker.
A little bit. I don't remember where I took his token from, but it's another D&D thing. But yeah, he's about got that look. Like, he's kind of baby faced. Like, you are way more, like, you're more mature than him. But he's kind of representing a world that you don't know. So there you have it. He seems nice. He's happy. He smiles a lot. You know, legitimate traits for people that you should always trust. But yeah, you go around the corner, you see him stepping out. You could see by the lantern light that it is him. And so you don't want to draw too much attention to the two of you, so you sort of move the shield over your lantern so that it's still on, but like the light's not coming out anymore. And when you see him, you just sort of take a moment and stare at each other for a second. And then under the stars and the moonlight and all of that, which again, these are the brightest stars you've ever seen because there's like no light to conflict with them. You finally find your nerve to tell him what's on your mind.
Caused me great hardship. These trysts have hindered my work and endangered my purpose in this world. Purpose. I didn't say that out loud. Your face interrupts my thoughts. Your smile disrupts my focus, and your words haunt my dreams. And also, you smell funny, and
Hey, you're the driver of you in this story. I do like how you said porpoise there, though. That was pretty good.
Sorry.
No, it's
What was
funny. Okay. So he's gonna. He's still smiling. You can make that out even in the dark. He's gonna walk a little bit closer, and he's gonna respond to you in the way that, bards always think is smooth, and it'll be up to you whether or not it works. What?
What are you talking about?
Then my face is blessed with the fruits of your mind, my smile gifted with your attention, and my words graced with a landscape of which angels themselves would envy.
Your honeyed words are sweet, but my work cannot be hindered by this folly. Come to you tonight to say goodbye. You are a good man and will find a good woman that is not me. Someone else that is not this body.
But I've already found a great woman, and I could accept no other. You say I haunt your dreams, but I myself cannot sleep at all. I fear I would miss out on even a second we share on this earth together. You may not be near, but I feel you with every heartbeat and close my eyes only so that I can more clearly picture you in my arms. The greatest pain coming only when I open my eyes again in your absence. And then he moves closer.
Gross.
Yeah, Anise in the back of her head is like, this is pathetic. Why are you going for this girl?
Side note, Penelope is also like, fuck this guy. But she does not know what's going on, I guess.
I guess.
I guess.
I am flattered by your investment and would ask that you sleep nonetheless. You'll die without it, and the world would be lesser for it. You should probably go sleep right now.
Can't sleep.
Immediately.
Pass out.
Right here on the ground, just pass out.
You would kill me here, and now if you turn and leave forever, the wound on my heart and soul would be far greater than any man could survive. You are my greater half, my missing part, my angel-given flesh, and my muse-given form.
They've known each other for like 2 days.
Yep, he is hammy as hell.
Bards.
Yep.
You lay such burdens on me. Your heart and soul are your own to give, but do not dare toss them at my feet and scoff should I leave them there. Oh.
Truly you are my killer then, the one who comes to me haunted, yet leave me a spectre in your wake. Will you not grant this dying man a final wish?
I'll not see you again, not with so much at stake. I'll not see you again, not with so much at stake. Tell me then, what would you have of me?
Hold me close, look me in the soul of my eyes, and tell me you feel nothing. Only when I know love is unrequited, only when you kill me with your gaze, will I know your words bear the sword of Damocles upon my neck.
Very well then, I shall just do that, and I just stab him. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, it's tempting.
I don't stab him, I metaphorically stab him.
Okay, so he gets a little bit closer. So as you do this, you're going to lean in, you're going to stare him down, you're going to send him daggers with your eyes, and you're going to end this nonsense right now. This guy's a pompous ass. And as you lean in to do that, that voice that you heard at the very beginning of this is whispering in your ear again. Is this it? Is this all you want? If you fail, will that be your legacy? And when you hear that voice, something weird is going on. Like your heart is pounding in your chest, and you're full of anxiety, and you're having a hard time staring the sky down. Like, yeah, it's dark and it's hard to see and all of that, but suddenly all of these fears that you've had lurking in you are coming up at the same time. Like your fear that you're going to work your entire life for this and fail, just like people have been doing for hundreds of years before you, and that's going to be the only thing you leave in the world. Or your fear that you're just going to keep doing this and nothing else, because like you're never going to actually have a romantic anything. Like the way that this family has always worked for you and for everyone is that you work in the labs, and then eventually when something appropriately political happens, someone from another mage family is brought in, and you effectively through a business contract have children so that you can keep things going with, you know, good magic circuits. You don't actually see the person again. It's just sort of it's a business. Like, it's very much a thing. And then that child will be raised in the same capacity, and then they will work in those tanks, and it will continue on and on until someone perfects this magic. And right now, that just hurts. The idea that this guy is a scrub. You're under no illusion that he's not a scrub. You know that he thinks he's smooth and that he thinks that he's winning you over with weird words, but really all this guy could actually be useful for you is a different way out of the system. Not like a runaway, because you still care about your job, but it might be the only choice you ever get to make. And it doesn't sound good, but there's just so much anxiety. And like you, Anise, is the person watching this, sort of. Like you're living through it, but you're watching it. You can feel an influence working on this woman. It's not her own decisions being made. Something is shifting the way that she views the world. And as she just sort of sits here staring at this guy, you can kind of feel yourself losing focus on the whole scene. Like something is going to go on that you can't see yet. And so with that uncomfortable thought, Penelope time.
Oh, good.
Can we actually hit pause for just
We can
a
totally hit pause. Those are built into this.
second? Yay.
Yay.
I'll be right back.
Cutscene theater.
Ah,
Yeah, we hit the FMV portion of the game.
the what?
This is like the cutscene and FMV part where you're between the dungeons and the plot just dumps.
Oh.
Like, it's kind of an experiment for me because I don't plan on doing this very often. I kind of want the two of you to have freedom to run around and do stuff, but
Yeah.
I thought this might be more fun than me just reading a block of text at you.
Right.
So, hooray, Type Moon.
Hey.
Story stuff. Well, I'm going to go ahead and load a map for Penelope to look at in the meantime.
Alrighty. Yeah, no, that part is a scrub.
Totally. Absolutely. Like, it was kind of fun to write scrub dialogue. The kind of stuff that 13-year-olds think is smooth is the most fun to write. Like, this is how you pick up a girl on LiveJournal.
It's like this is the kind of person where I'm just like, I want to pick them up by their ankles and put them in the dumpster.
Which is the correct place for them.
Yeah.
All right, let's give you a map. Bloop.
Yeah. That was mildly terrifying.
It's big. You can just zoom in on the middle of this one.
Well, it, like, didn't load. I just saw, like, a bunch of X's.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on here?
It's weird when it's in mid-load.
Good time.
Alright, for all intents and purposes, I'm back.
Yay.
Hooray.
Welcome
Difficult to
back.
say the word purpose with a British accent without sounding like
No, that's why it's fun. Like,
Purpose. Purpose?
Like I was just telling your roommate, like this is one of those things where there's a lot of dumb cutscene dialogue to go through, and I would much rather you get to at least participate in it than me just read bad fan fiction at you. So, so by all means, have fun with this. You're not meant to take it super seriously. It's just meant to get some information in. But okay, so yeah, we are cutting over to the stuff that Penelope is seeing now.
Woo, time to trip balls.
Yay!
A bit. So Penelope, you find yourself floating, first of all. So that's cool.
Woo.
You're not actually you're not perceiving things like you are on the ground. You're perceiving things from the perspective of something that can float. Pretty neat. Yeah, you're floating in it's a big clearing actually. You can see there's a bunch of trees around you. There's a bunch of stones in the area, but also you can see there's a really big boulder, and that boulder has 5 big stone pillars around it, and there's a rope running between those pillars, wrapping it up and kind of making a giant star. And from your perspective as someone who can apparently float, you can see that there's a girl sitting on top of the boulder. She looks pretty small, maybe like 10 or something. Pretty young. She looks human enough, although you can tell from even up here that she's got red eyes and white hair, which stand out even though the world around you is largely shades of gray. Like, those elements do stand out to you. She kind of reminds you a little bit of a Covial, but like very young. And she's huddled up on top of this stone. And as you look around a little more, you can see there are wolves. And they're just sort of walking around. Now, this stone is maybe 5 or 6 feet tall. Like, this is something that those wolves are easily going to be able to scale. And the girl looks nervous. She looks afraid. The world around you is also pretty chilly looking. Like, there's some snow on the ground. There are some fires running nearby, but they're mostly sources of light. Like, she's not close enough to any of them to really benefit much from the heat. But there are a few wolves. You can see 3 of them around her, and they seem to just sort of be pacing and expecting her to get up and run away or something, and she's just not. In fact, as she's sitting there, she's sort of huddled up in like a bit of a fetal position. Like, her arms are around her legs, like her knees up next to her chin. She's kind of rocking back and forth a little bit, trying not to make too much noise, but it's very clear to you, with the benefit of floating height, that the wolves are aware that she's there, and they're getting closer. As the wolves move in around her, they cross this line made by the ropes. And when they do, the little girl, she screams in pain, and red lights, like lines on her arm, almost like tattoos, start to light up all along her arms and legs, actually on her face. This is weird. Like, you've seen this done before through some mage rituals, but they're not very common. It's very unusual. But when she does that and she screams, like, she's clearly hurting and they haven't done anything yet. But when that happens, you see something else appearing right between her and the wolves. And is this. As a big dude.
And Lord.
Very big. And he appears right next to those wolves. Brr, look at him. He's all big. And as soon as those wolves cross the line, he just takes this giant club sword thing that he's carrying, and he just smashes one of them. It's pretty brutal. It's a graphic swing. It's like a one swing, and he just crushes it. The other 2 see that, and they freak out and run. So they just back off. They run away. They're yelping. None of that. The other one is just straight up dead. And so when that happens, the girl screams out at the big man. And she just shouts, "Go away! You're cruel! You're big and you're mean and you're ugly and I hate you!" And the man screams back at her, roaring at an incredibly loud voice. Almost like a beast more than anything. And then as soon as he's done shouting at her, he sort of fades away. And the girl goes back to sitting and huddling and crying by herself with the splattered wolf to keep her company.
Oh, good.
And you, floating over all of this, you kind of look down at your own hands, and you can see through them.
Oh, boy.
You know what a ghost is. You've seen ghosts. You kind of think you might be a ghost right now.
Oh, no.
That's not ideal.
No.
But also you feel this strong desire to float down and, like, help this girl. And you try to do so. But as you cross, as you would have crossed the area that rope, connecting all of the stones is at, you find yourself sealed off. You can't. It's just, there's some kind of barrier. It's preventing you from doing it. You can't get through. You can't get close to the girl. You can't interact with anything. All you can do is watch.
Goody.
So that's what Penelope gets to see. Somewhat shorter and less interactive for right now.
That's okay.
It's all good. Because we're going to cut back to what Anise can see. Hurrah. And you can close these windows as we go through them, by the way. You don't need to leave them all open. I'll share them again as we go, because those cloud effects are going to slowly slow down some computers. In fact, I'm just closing them as we go. Right. So now we are back in the workshop from before. And there are more researchers than before. Like, it's a bit busier of a place. So Anise, you're in a workshop. You can see from your reflection in the tube that you're working on that you're same person, whoever she is. But you also notice that you've got a bit more of a belly than you had last time you were here. And that you occasionally feel what you could only assume would be kicks. So
Anise is horrified.
Anise is understandably
Him
horrified. Yeah. You get a sense that something happened. But right now what you're doing is you are pushing a cart from tank to tank. You're checking some readouts on them. When you look at these tanks, you can see some information is like being displayed on them. Like, this is still super old. Like, you don't have screens or anything. You just have these little it's kind of like pH strips or things like that. Like, you're dipping some pieces of paper into tubes, and when you pull them out, you're seeing different colors, and none of them are giving you the color that you want. Like, you're not getting the evidence that whatever you're trying to do is working. And so every time you walk up to a tank and you don't get the result you want, you essentially pop a button, or really you turn a latch and you let it drain out all the liquid out, and then the person inside the tank collapses forward onto your little cart, and you move on to the next one. And each time you go, you take your clipboard and you mark off another failure. And looking at the clipboard, you can see that the work that you're doing here is systematically trying like every possibility of chemical equation for building homunculi. Like, you've got a range, and you can tell from this that you've been doing, okay, well, here's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 2. One at a time, or rather like 30 or 40 at a time. You're making your way through all of these combinations through some math or logic, expecting to eventually solve the mystery of the third magic using these homunculi. It makes sense to the person that you are right now, so you're just going to assume that there's some reasoning to it. But of course, after you go through another row of presumed failed homunculi, you get to the end, and it's time to dump them. Nonchalantly, you just take all those bodies with your cart, you dump them in the corner, someone else will come by for them later. They have failed. But hey, you got more, right? You can always make more. That said, though, you don't feel as bad about this. Like, you've been through this routine, dozens, if not hundreds of times before. Your peers, your coworkers, so to speak, the other researchers, are bummed out every time this happens, but you don't feel quite as invested as you used to. Like, maybe you've got something else going on. In fact, one of them walks up to you. It's that guy with the beret from before, and he comments on the fact that you don't seem quite as down.
Sorry, turn.
No rush.
You don't seem to be taking this batch of failures as badly as the rest of us. Is it because you've got a different investment happening, or?
I assure you, I am as committed to the goal as ever. Our family has been meticulously confirming every possibility that doesn't work for generations. I'm not going to be the one who ends that chain. If anything, I've taken a step to ensure there will be someone to pick up this work when I'm gone.
Oh, I mean, look, I wasn't gonna pry, but unless that father you've never seen fit to show us has some healthy mate.
If you weren't going to pry, then don't start now. I am the mother, this will be my child. If we don't achieve the miracles, then I'm confident my son or daughter will do it in our stead.
And the guy, puts his hands up, hey, sorry, no, totally get it. Sort of smiles and nods really uncomfortably, and then he goes back to work, going through the next row of homunculi and continues on it. As he does that, you can kind of reflect on the fact that, that guy was exactly the scrub you thought he was going to be. You never expected more out of him. But he was kind of perfect because he gave you what you needed and he left. This was apparently what you wanted. You didn't realize you wanted it until that moment, but apparently you did. Anise is horrified, rightfully so. You're fully cognizant that something not okay happened, but that's where she is. Her mind is wandering to the fact that, by finding a guy who wasn't a mage, there's not going to be much of a conflict for, keeping her child and raising her child the way that she wants to, and having maybe the child be the legacy that the research clearly isn't leading to. The family has been trying to do this for nearly 1,000 years. What's another generation of two? Why can't you be happy in the meantime? Why can't you have something else to show for your life other than checking off that many more boxes on a list? All right. And now we're back to Penelope time. So that girl's crying. You've been floating here for a while, and that girl cries a lot. It's her default state. Understandably, she's not very happy, but for reasons you can't quite piece together. She doesn't get up and leave. There are wolves out there, but realistically, you can see a castle from here. It's not that big of a jump to assume that she could make a run for it. Eventually she's got to get hungry, right? She's obviously cold. That big guy who shows up is scary, but he doesn't seem to want to hurt her. At least there's that. Though she does seem to hurt every time he has appeared. You've seen him show up and scare away the wolves a few times now. As you float around, though, you notice that she's actually holding something. Like she's bunched up with her knees, but you can see that she's got something on her lap. And that something looks like this. It's like a tiny plushie with big bear claws and ears and stuff. And she seems to be holding it pretty closely, almost as if it's like the only source of comfort she has in all of this. As she's holding it, like you feel so bad for her. Like you, as whatever spirit you are, want to take care of her and help her, but you can't get any closer, and she can't see or hear you, so you're just sort of forced to watch. And as you're watching her do this and clutch this thing, you can see the wolves are coming back again. And when they do, I'm not going to add them to the map because they're not getting close. You can just see them poking out of the woods, and she sees them too. And she just starts to shout at them. Go away. The angry man will kill you if you get any closer. It's for your own good. Just leave. Wolves don't really get it. They don't understand her. So they start to charge in again. And when they do, she lights up in red again. She seems to be in great pain again. And the big guy appears again, and he moves to intercept them. One of the wolves goes jumping in for her, as if it's going to try to sneak in from the other side. And he just grabs it, like with one of his giant arms. Like his hand just wraps around the wolf, and he goes and he holds it down on the ground, and he pulls back his sword to smash it. And the girl shouts out at him, and she just shouts for him, "No, don't. That's mean. Don't do it. When you hurt things, you hurt me. Just leave." And so the man roars back at her, and then he takes this wolf that he's holding down, and he just throws it off in the woods like it's, a fish being discarded in the water. You hear the wolf crash through some bushes, but it does get up and run away. It doesn't seem to be too hurt. The other wolves leave with it. And the man just sort of stares at her, and then he disappears again. And you can kind of hear her sitting there by herself as the guy fades away. No wolves. Still that one dead wolf over there. That hasn't really gone anywhere. And she just sort of is moping to herself that she doesn't want to be out here alone. But at least someone's trying to help her. Like she's in conflict. And that was her sad story. Back to the vat shop. Okay. So, Anise, you're in that girl again. You're not pregnant anymore. Good job. High five. But things are not going... Do what?
I high-fived myself, aka I just clapped.
There you go. Yeah, she... You're in the lab again. But this time... like you're panicking. You're full of anxiety. You're actually holding a small girl. You're holding a small girl. She looks like you, close enough to you. It's pretty clear. Like she's probably like maybe 6 or 7. She's not very old. She's clutching a small plush doll in one arm and like a tiny cross in the other one. And she's very sick. You can tell just from looking at her that this girl has caught something. Like it might be like this isn't the right time period based on your masterful knowledge of history to be too worried about the plague. But she's clearly caught something. She's sick. She's not doing very well, and the woman that you're seeing all of this through as, her mother, is doing what she can to leverage the materials here in the lab to help her. You can do a medicine check and see if you can figure out what to do for this girl. Wow, you really only roll 1s and 20s. How does that work?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, all of the stuff that you have here is for homunculi. Like, you don't really have anything that works for people. Like, you're getting pretty desperate, but you're not really sure that anything here can help. It's possible that you just need some time. I mean, one thing that you do know from working here for so long is that, if you fall behind on taking care of one of these homunculi for a few days, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't age, they don't get older. Like, none of that happens because while they're in these tanks, like, the world has stopped for them. Maybe that'll work for her. Maybe if you put her in one of these things, it'll stop her suffering long enough, and then whenever you, or maybe one of the future generations, figures out the third magic, you can release her from this, sick body. Like, she probably can't stay in there forever, but this buys you some time. Like, this girl's gonna die any day now otherwise, so that's what you do. You put her in one of the unused tanks, and you fill it with that solution, and you hope for the best. But you're not just going to leave it to chance. I mean, they haven't figured this out in thousands of years, or in 1,000 years, or nearly 1,000 years. So, like, why would you expect it to happen before your daughter dies? You got to figure out something. Like, you're going to have to try something extreme and see if maybe you can figure out the third magic sooner, or something else that'll make this work. You're not a healer. You're not going to get a healer before she dies. So what can you do? All you can do is do what you know. Why don't you give me an Arcana check to try to come up with something extreme that just might work? There's the middle. We found it. Okay. So with that, you think over the different branches of, magic and magecrafts and all of that stuff, and you decide that there's just got to be something. And as you're thinking, you can hear that voice in your head again, like the one that you heard all those years ago when you decided to have a daughter. And she whispers to you, "The body is meaningless. The soul is an eternal miracle. Perhaps the soul is the key." And when those words appear in your ears, you start thinking down the paths of, magecraft that you know enough, but never really focused on because it wasn't considered as important as the work. And maybe the path that you're going down is the one that you need for releasing souls from the body, because that's ultimately a big part of what the third magic does, right? I mean, you release the soul and you give it a new body that it can inhabit that's better in every way. But that's kind of the path of necromancy. So you don't have time. You got to try something that they never do. So we're just going to do that. And now Anise kind of experiences, Anise doesn't know TV, so she doesn't really know what fast forwarding is, but this is more like thumbing through a book really quickly and just catching every few words. You get a bunch of sequences in rapid succession. You see you see yourself essentially walking into town and essentially sneaking up on people that you can find by themselves and using magecraft to knock them out. And then using the same cart that you were using before to move the homunculi bodies around. You're just taking these people up one after another, taking them from the town and taking them up here. And you've got all these tanks full of homunculi, and now you've got a bunch of people. And you lay the people out in circles around the tanks, like, you know, special spiritual circles. And it's going to be fine. Like, it'll be fine. What you're going to do is you're going to release the souls from the bodies, and you're going to put the souls in homunculi. And the homunculi, when they have souls, will have a better chance of understanding what a soul is and how to interact with it. And maybe if you do this with enough of them, one of them will figure out the third magic. That's the only thing you've never tried. You only need one of them to get it right to save your daughter. It'll be worth it. And then for all the rest of these people, well, with the third magic, it won't matter that you took their souls out of their bodies, because they won't need their bodies anymore. You can let them out of that too. It'll be great. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And so that's what you see her do. She's setting them out in front of the tanks, and she's walking one after another and performing a ritual. And you actually can see ghosts leaving their bodies, but they're not going into the homunculi. They're just fleeing, as they do when someone dies. There's not much to keep them here. She does this over and over again, and eventually exhausts herself and just passes out right there. Then we're back to Penelope. It's the happy story time. So Penelope sees the girl sitting there, and you notice something a little bit different from before. She's been sitting there for a long time. She's cold. She's shaking. She's not really screaming anymore. You don't see the man. She doesn't seem to be hurting because the man hasn't appeared in a long time. But you as essentially a spirit, you actually notice a small disruption in the clouds around you. And you can see him. He doesn't seem to be visible to her. He's just sort of floating there in that glow that he had before when you saw him come and go. And he's just sort of watching. Doesn't seem to be doing much. He's just watching her cold. And you feel a compulsion, because he's outside of the rope and you can't bear to watch this anymore. You float down and you tell him he's got to help you. He's got to keep you warm. He's got to do what he can to help you live and get you to safety. And the you in this case is the girl. Like, you're looking at the girl when you say it. And he stares at you. He makes an angry face, but he doesn't attack you. Like, he seems to know that's not going to work. And then he walks over to the wolf, the dead one, and he manifests again. Like, she can see him now. And she screams because it hurts. But he takes this big blade thing, and he actually skins the wolf, and he removes its hide. And you would think a big angry man like this would do a terrible job. And he doesn't do the best job ever. Like, it's not going to be the best thing ever, but like, the wolf is big enough and the girl is small enough that he does actually put together a hide for her that could function as a blanket. And he tosses it to her. She screams when it flies at her, and then he disappears. And she takes a moment, confused by all of this. And then she wraps herself in it like a blanket. And for the first time, she doesn't seem to be cold. Then we're back to the workshop. Anise, you can hear shouting around you. You don't know how many people you went through that ritual with, but you're pretty sure you ran out of people and then just gave up and passed out. But The dude with the beret is shouting at you.
Sorry,
No, you're good.
windows. I'm trying to close them all as we get through.
There's a lot. Like, I could probably force close some of them for you if it helps. I can close them when we're done with them.
It is. It worked. We got one. We have a homunculus with promise.
It did it? It worked? It really worked?
Yes, can you believe it? It's crazy. I don't understand what you did, but you did it. Tank 54 is showing, abnormal magic circuit activity in line with the observations of the founder before his disappearance. Ah.
Can't believe. Wait, subject 54, but then.
So you have a sudden realization that you didn't do the necromantic ritual in front of that 54. That's not one of the ones that you essentially sacrificed a human to. It's just one of the other ones in the room. Like, now that you think about it, it's the one that you broke all those years ago. And then in a panic, you smashed a bunch of things together and got it working again. Oh, well, whatever. You got one. That's the goal. It worked out. You probably didn't need to do all that other stuff, but it doesn't matter. Your daughter's going to be safe now. So you get up and you rush in and you see a crowd of other researchers gathered around apparently Subject 54. And Subject 54 is a woman. And she's got red eyes and really long white hair. Anise recognizes her as looking like a younger version of Ecovial. And she seems very, very still and stoic. Like, she's still in her tank. They haven't drained it yet. But the strips that they've been testing everything with, this is the first time ever that it's come back with a bright gold color. You've never seen that before. You're always told that's what would happen, but you've never seen it. And so everyone's freaking out. But this is your tank. This is your responsibility. And more importantly, you're not going to let anybody mess this up because you need her. You need this to work. So you walk over and you follow the procedures. It's really hard to be patient, but you follow all the proper procedures. You start to drain the tank slowly. You lower the glass so that she can come out, and the first thing that you notice for her is that she doesn't climb out like you were hoping she would do. She just sort of stumbles forward at you, and you catch her as she falls out. She seems to be pretty fragile by your experience. Like, most of the homunculi you've worked with are strong. Like, they're durable. Like, they're more durable than a normal person. But you can tell just from holding her here as she falls onto you that just the gravity of her falling into your arms is giving her bruises. Like, this girl is crazy fragile. Like, what's going on with that? So yeah, you can do a medicine check to see what's going on. Okay, so you give her a full and proper examination, and through a series of like alchemical processes, you make a really startling discovery. In fact, because you rolled a 19, I'm just going to tell you what it is. This girl's body, like, she's a homunculus, so like she's already not human. Like, it's different, but typically humans are the basis used for them, so they're very similar. But if you could imagine a person whose nervous system is like 98% magic circuits instead of nerves, like, her entire body is made of magic circuits. Like, in a lot of ways, she's one giant artifact designed to channel mana. Like, it's a wonder she can even stand up. Like, she's got just enough nerves to function, but not well or quickly. It's insane. Like, it's a miracle that she's not dead in front of you. But she does seem to work. And so you get an opportunity to, as you're examining her, like, you get to talk to her when no one's around. You find out just from the naming system on the vats, like, yes, she was a number, but they'd already decided a long time ago that if the first homunculus to work is a woman, they would give her the name Justice Lizrich von Einzbern, or just Justice. And so that's what you call her.
Tell me, Justice, can you perform the heavens field?
She replies to you very stoic, very mechanical. Do you want to do this one, Zip? Do you want to sound like a robot?
I can be a robot, sure.
Beep boop.
Beep boop. That was my lungs just failing me there for a second.
You're not supposed to be so in character that you also don't have nerves.
Fine, no worries. I was built to perform miracles. I can release the soul from the body. I will need sufficient mana to perform.
Okay, well that's all you needed to hear. So you then take her to the vat that has your daughter in it.
Boop was important.
Take all the time you need. This girl needs your help. Her body is failing her, but her soul is pure.
Justice standing where she is. She puts her her left and right hands up, and you can just tell visibly looking at her that she's started channeling mana. Like, you've worked with Magecraft before, you know the look. She's clearly doing something, but it's kind of unnerving. Like, she is super stoic. You don't see, like, breathing. Her eyes are closed, but you don't see, like, eye movement or anything with her. Like, she almost looks like a statue. And so you get to stand and wait. You watch her, she's doing something. You wait a few minutes. You wait several minutes. You can still see that she's drawing something, but you don't see any change in her as she does it. It's now been about 10 minutes.
How much longer will this take?
Cannot be certain as I am help.
It's all good.
I'm unable to draw more than this from the leyline. It is unstable. Sorry.
You okay?
I'm fine. This is very stoic. And my abilities will likely deteriorate with fatigue. But at this rate, I will complete the ritual in 365 days, 22 hours, 41 minutes, and 17.
So yeah, a year and a day. That's the amount of time it's going to take to save your daughter. She's probably not going to last that long. You know that. Like, fortunately, as a homunculus, you could just leave Justice right there, and she's just going to continue on the ritual. But that's not going to save your daughter. So you end up going to the head of the Einzberns family. Like, he's obviously waiting to hear from you. Like, you've potentially accomplished the miracle. And so when you talk to him, specifically, you go into the big room. I'm not going to show a picture of it because we've got sufficient numbers of pictures open that it's not worth it for this one scene. But you go into a big room at the very top of the castle, the equivalent of a throne room. And when you do, he's sitting there, and the golem that was built to run the affairs of the castle, who Anise recognizes from seeing his corpse through the fireplace, is standing there with him. And the head of the family is hearing you describe that this isn't going to save the world. You can't take over a year to save one soul. Like, it's a miracle, but it's not enough of a miracle to save humanity, much less change the world the way that you'd all dreamed. You're going to need more of them. And he agrees with you. He says that she's clearly capable of the feat based on everything you've seen so far, but you're going to need more of her. You're going to need to make more homunculi based on her model. And perhaps if you have dozens or hundreds of them, you can speed along the process and truly save humanity. And that he wants to know what you did. What was different about this one that made it work? And you don't know. Like, you know that this is a vat that you did something special to, but you'd made dozens and dozens of homunculi in that vat since that day. Like, that was like a decade ago. You've made more since then, and nothing has ever come out of it. So that can't be all there is to it. You performed a ritual with a bunch of necromancy, which is grim and horrible, but since you seem to have gotten results, no one's judging you for it. They all want to know how you did it. They want to know the rituals that you use. They want to recreate the conditions as perfectly as they can. And so everyone agrees that this is worth it. This is the path to the root. This is the path to eternal bodies for the soul. And so that's what the Einzberns become. You and your associates use the homunculi that you have already made, their superior strength and their power, and your magecraft, and you proceed to round up people from the village and some of the neighboring areas, and you perform the same ritual. You knock them out, you release their souls, and then each time you do this, you check the tanks. But, you know, days go by, weeks go by, you do this for months. You eventually deplete the population of non-mages from the immediate area, and nothing ever works. Like, you never produce another Justice. All of the homunculi that you make this way are failures. So clearly that wasn't it. But another thing happens as this goes on. You overhear the other Einzberns. You overhear the other people there. They're talking about dreams. They've been having nightmares. They've all been having nightmares. And in these nightmares, like, they're being made to feel guilty about the failure of it all. Like, not just that they're now committing what are essentially atrocities, but it's not working. Like, all of them have spent their entire lives and their parents' lives and their grandparents' lives back dozens of generations, and the thing that finally worked was a fluke. None of the meticulous step-by-step, scientific method, which they wouldn't know that's called that at this time, but none of that ever did it. None of it paid off. It was all a joke in the grand scheme of things, and these nightmares are haunting them. They feel horrible. And over the course of time, some of the other researchers, they just leave. Like, they get up and walk away one day. Like, one by one, like, they feel less and less motivated to keep at it. Like, you're not sacrificing people anymore, but they all feel horribly guilty for doing it and then not getting the moral get out of, hell free card of it being worth it. And they just keep at it. But again, everyone else is having those dreams. And you also eventually start having those dreams too. You seem to be getting them later than everyone else, but when you do, it's that same voice you've been hearing from the beginning. It's that same voice that seems to show up every time in your life you make a big decision and nudges you just that little bit that you need to do something you probably wouldn't have done otherwise. And this time, the voice isn't asking you questions or pushing you in any direction. It's just judging you. This was it. This was all you could do. The dead at your feet, the flawed magic your family has toiled hundreds of years for. All of this is the fruit of your labor. This is what you leave the world. This is the legacy. This is what you've done. And you pretty much feel like you're gonna snap. At this point in time, it's been 10 months since the ritual started. Justice has been standing there for 10 months performing this ritual. Your daughter is still in that tank, but she is not looking great. Like, even with it slowing it down, she's looking worse and worse. You're not sure she's going to make it to the year. Like, you never really thought she would. As the family has been leaving or dying out, you've been relying more and more on the golem, Jubstashite, to manage the castle. He's taken over the production of new homunculi because, like, what you're doing isn't working and you need something. He's taken over the routines of everything. Like, finally, the founder of the family even has given up. Like, they've all just given up. The only reason things are happening at all is because you need your daughter to be okay, and because the golem is running everything else. One morning you wake up and you just realize that everyone else is left. A lot of them just straight up killed themselves. Like, it was horrible, but you're so numb to it all at this point that it doesn't matter. The golem keeps working, and finally, what you were dreading does come to pass. Your daughter is clearly passed away in that tank. She's not going to be here. She's not going to be a soul that you can give a new body. She's returned to the root herself and will be reborn as someone or several someone someday. So it was all pretty much for nothing. And as you stand there and you make this realization, Justice says the first words that she said in, months, where she reports the status to you.
The subject has expired. Shall I continue the ritual with the new subject? I will have the necessary mana to save a soul in 42 days, 17 hours, 31 minutes, and 52 seconds.
And this complete numbness just washes over you, and so you've just got one last reply for her.
Yes, just keep going. It all has to be for something. Find you someone who needs an eternity to improve humanity, or repent.
And with that, things fade out for Anise. And finally, we are back to Penelope. And we are about to wrap up, because I knew this was going to be long, but yep. So we are back to Penelope. And now that the girl has been sufficiently covered in the fur, she's not cold anymore. You've noticed that she doesn't seem to get hungry. She's just been there for a while, and she's very, very quiet. But eventually, you can hear her murmuring, I don't want to be alone. I need you, Berserker. And finally, the big guy appears again. And he's different now. Like, he's still big and he's still intimidating and he's still scary. But he doesn't show that rage that you saw when he was smashing the wolf, or when he was shouting at her in the first vision, or all of this time. He seems to have calmed down a bit. And he sits down on the giant rock behind her and falls off. He just stumbles off. It's not big enough. Like, it's not big enough for him to be up there with her. And so he walks over to the giant stones and he rips the ropes off of them and he smashes the stones down and he shoves them up against this rock. And the girl on top is like freaking out. She doesn't know what to make of this, but she doesn't want to fall off it, so she's just sort of grabbing onto it. And then he goes and he gets more and more stones and more, and he builds this giant pillar, this huge stone, like easily 15 or 20 feet up. And he slowly helps her up on top of it to where it's completely safe from all of the forest. And then he smooths it out by just patting it down with his massive hands. And then they sit on it, and the girl finally falls asleep. You have not seen this girl get to sleep the entire time, but she finally feels safe and comfortable enough to sleep. And he just sits there with her. And you just sort of get to watch that. Like, finally, with those stones out of the way, you can float down and you can actually see this up close. And there's a warmth to it. It's very strange. You haven't felt a warmth, not since you lost your body so long ago. It's just something that feels right. It's almost like a parent and a child. It feels important and familiar. And after the night of that, at the first light, you see a man approaching. And he's approaching from up in the castle area above. And it's that guy again. It's the one who you saw crushed outside by the man who attacked the castle. You know that he's that golem guy, but the spirit that you're in now sees him walking down, and he has a number of women walking alongside him who all look exactly the same. And they have halberds, and they have chains, and they have all sorts of things as if they're here to apprehend a giant dangerous animal. And he sees the girl sitting peacefully, hunched up against the big, scary man. And the big, scary man gives him a death glare. And then he nods, and then he tells her, "You can come home now." And with that, she slowly rubs her eyes, and the big guy picks her up and puts her on his shoulder, and he carries her back. And when that happens, that doll that she'd been clutching the whole time falls down, and it seems to slide a bit. It falls under the cracks in the rocks from where he smoothed it out, but wasn't perfect, and it just goes down under those. And she doesn't seem to mind. She seems to feel safe with her guardian now. And so they head back up and into the castle. And by this point in time, Penelope recognizes, now that all of that stuff is gone, that this big stone thing that they were looking at is specifically the one that everyone is sitting on right now, like in the real world. And the last thing that Penelope sees is this ghost that she's been looking through, floating down into the stone to where that bear fell, and cuddling the bear through its spectral hands, and telling the bear, "I will keep you warm. I will keep you safe. I will not let the world take you from me. I'll never fail you again." And then with that, both of your eyes open up and you're back in the real world. Finally.
We've been tripping balls.
I'm still in the ritual, right?
You apparently completed the ritual. Completely. You've... Seems like all of this stuff, which felt like forever, was really just in a moment. And while you did the ritual, you just were seeing things. But yeah, the two of you are on top of this rock now, along with the rest of your group. And your ghost is looking at you, like both of you, really, really confused.
That
Just you or others?
Hell just happened.
that was bizarre.
You saw shit too?
Yes, I saw. Has a lot of time passed, or I just ask basically anybody. I'm looking at like Ecovial, Kwaku. Felt like a long time just passed, but for me maybe, but not for all of you.
You've been doing this for I don't know. Have you started yet? You
I've already
last
finished.
time it took you so long, but you've been doing this for less than a minute.
Huh.
Is it done? Can we leave?
Yes. You said you saw something just now as well, Penelope?
I saw like I saw them. I saw this rock being made, like this rock, like the one we're standing on.
Huh. That is not at all what I saw.
She turns to the ghost and is like, "Was that you? Was I seeing you?"
Not I, not I. I've never been here.
There's like a bear and shit, and like there was a big, angry-looking guy, very burly. But he literally just takes all the rocks and just squishes them together, and there's a little
Echo
tiny-
kind of walks over. You said you saw him do that.
Yeah. And there was like a tiny, like, baby version of you. I don't know if it actually was you. But it's like, she was a little girl, like,
That
tiny.
what was the big man mean to her?
I mean, no. Like,
Did you happen to catch her name?
nope.
I would wager if you're seeing the memories of this place or something here, that you saw Iliasville, the master of the Berserker servant. She is the only one he would let close to him. For all others, he was a wild beast.
So in my vision, I never actually caught the name of the person I was inhabiting, right? No one ever
Correct. You
talked-
never actually got referred to by a name. The only names you heard through the entire time were the name of the golem and the name of the homunculus.
Well, I saw quite a bit more than that. I was in the body of who I suspect to be one of the Einzberns. I believe I saw the first homunculus being made. Does the name Justice mean anything to you?
Oh, yes. She was the head of the family for 900 years.
Interesting.
We have a large portrait of her if you would like to see it.
Yes, I actually would. I believe I was seeing memories of someone from the 800s, early 900s. Village that we traveled through was... I saw it before it was a ruin. Saw a laboratory, possibly in the Einzbern castle. It was quite a bit advanced for the time. I saw a lot of things. I saw someone being forced to make terrible choices, I guess.
That is most unfortunate.
It was years and years that I experienced, but apparently only in the blink of an eye.
Well, once we sort out that tree, you're welcome to explore the castle and see if it helps put any pieces together.
Yes, Perhaps. And Anise will stand up and kind of wobble a little,
That's fair.
suddenly really tired.
Yeah, that was an exhausting journey for you. In fact, for all the reasons stated before, if you would like to rest before you go tussle with a tree, this is a great opportunity.
I don't know if we can get a full night's rest, but I would definitely prefer some sort of rest before we take on the bitch tree.
Same.
That makes sense to me. It's a very large thing, and from what I can tell, you made it very angry before.
Strange. I think we're safe on this rock. I get the sense that it's protected somehow.
Yeah, if my crazy vivid I can't even talk anymore, apparently. Like, if my crazy hallucinations proved anything, I think there's a ghost in the rock that's protecting the rock. It seems pretty safe.
You mentioned a bear, like a bear, or
Yeah, like the little girl, like Iliasfeel, I guess, had a little teddy bear that she dropped.
I thought you meant like a real bear.
No, there weren't any bears. Some wolves died, I guess.
Oh.
And Penelope, as you're sort of gesticulating with your hands, you actually point in a direction, and you can see the crack that bear fell down. It's still here.
Yeah, it like the bear fell down that crack, and then there was a ghost. I think I was the ghost. I don't know. I've never been a ghost. I can't tell you if person face was a ghost, but the ghost would. Hey. Sorry, Jelly's clawing the couch. It's like the ghost kind of went down in that crack and said something about protecting stuff. I don't know.
I'm gonna go look in the crack.
Go for it. You may investigate.
Investigate.
Roll for crack. I'm also gonna investigate.
Okay, well, the first thing that you observe before you even roll is that Anis's hand is stuck in that crack.
Oh no!
Oh no! I got a 13.
Okay, so you suspect that there's an Anise stuck in this rock. But past that, yeah, you can actually, after you help her get her hand out of it, your hands are smaller, so you're better suited for this. You can actually see that, yeah, there's definitely still a gap down there, and you can just make out that there's something stuck at the bottom of it.
Would perhaps some light be helpful?
That might illuminate the situation a little.
Produce flame.
Go for it. Okay, yeah. When you do that, you can see down there. Penelope recognizes it as one of the little paws of the stuffed bear, just barely visible.
Yep, it's down there. Oh God. Ah.
Shall we try and get it out or leave it?
I think we should leave it.
The bird sort of flops over and looks in there. Seems confused.
Yeah. I don't. I feel like touching it would be a bad idea.
Ah, fair enough. Produce flame goes away. Goes. Yes. Penelope. No, Anise is exhausted.
That's fair. Okay.
And suddenly Penelope.
So the lot of you can take a rest.
We'll build a little campfire and have some tea.
Have a little.
You can do so. Nothing bothers you while you do that.
Take a nap.
It's another short rest.
Yeah, unless you want to stay here longer. I'm not enforcing the one long rest a day thing because I think it doesn't scale well with modern times.
Do we know what time of day it is?
You've been pretty active for a bit. Like, keeping in mind you woke up at the saloon. You've covered a lot of ground. You could probably actually stand a rest. Like, it's currently moving on, like, late afternoon. So if you were to decide that you wanted to go up to the castle now, it would probably be sunset about the time you got there. It's up to you if you want to fight a vampire tree during the day or night. One half of it really likes daylight, the other half hates daylight, so that's up to you.
Yeah, I was about to say, on the one hand, photosynthesis, but on the other hand, darkness.
It's just gonna be a matter of what makes you comfortable, I guess.
Do I know enough about the tree to know whether it would be better to fight it during the day or in the night?
From your previous rolls on it, you get the sense that the tree can't actually see. It probably would be sensing things through, more tremors or stuff like that on the ground, given where its roots are. So it probably doesn't care about day or night. Day or night might be more a factor of whether or not your group can see.
Or, being able to see all of the various denizens of the forest.
Right. Because, like, some of the things that theoretically could show up and help you might do better at night, but when you're going up against a thing that doesn't need to see them, it kind of loses that edge. So daylight might work better for you.
We probably don't have enough time to go back to Echoviel's.
You could.
How?
Like, if you're planning on coming back in the morning versus later, like, you could absolutely do that. You just, again, every time you wander through, you could always run into more angry trees. Like, you didn't have angry trees when you left your cabin the first time.
That's fair.
Like, if you really want to be bold, you could try to sneak into the castle and sleep there. Like, the tree's in the courtyard, but...
We probably didn't bring, like, bedrolls or anything with us.
Just whatever you travel with. I mean, you were traveling before this. Just whatever you think you would bring.
We could probably construct some sort of... Because you said that it's not windy, but there is moving air.
Yeah, this is way more, like, normal.
You could probably construct some sort of structure out of wood and cloth or something so that we could sleep under it. Just have wraps loom above us. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. We're literally traveling with a guy who we...
That's fair.
You can just make it...
Are we setting up camp for the night?
Talking about it.
We're thinking about it.
Okay, so he goes over to his big steamer box, which Raps has been carrying this whole time, and he's like, let's get some things out then. And so he just keeps reaching in and pulling out progressively more ridiculous camping gear that probably shouldn't fit in this box. Like, he actually has a tent, and he's only got like 2 sleeping bags, but he can figure out more stuff. There's plenty of blankets though.
Anise probably has something of some sort. She was planning on needing to camp in order to get to the destination to give the person the potions.
Right.
Penelope did not bring camping shit.
Which is fair. You were on a 3-hour train ride to see your manager. Like,
Anise is also way more used to sleeping on the ground and having to sleep in nature and fashion things out of things found.
Yeah, admittedly, having a druid and a ranger here means I believe in your ability to make this work.
I believe it would be best for us to get some sleep and maybe take on the tree in the morning.
Not a bad idea.
I am quite exhausted. That yawn was real and not just for effect.
That's fair. Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to give the party a long rest, and we'll see how good the automation feels like working today.
Yay!
Hooray!
All right, remember, Raps, you do have some damage on you.
Alright, so there's just the one tent, correct?
There's one tent, but it's pretty big. I mean, it's big enough for Raps to fit in, so figure that out as you wish.
So, hold on. Let me check something. I'm thinking, like, if Anise, like, wild shapes into a cat sleep to save space. would that work?
For an hour.
Yeah.
Or half an hour, I guess, is how long you get to be a cat.
Well, oh well.
But it would work.
Polymorph that can last longer. That's
Oh,
Well,
geez.
when you get to higher levels, it'll also last longer. It's just like it scales with your level.
Ugh.
Okay. The part where I remember where the buttons are. Initiative button. That is not the button I meant to hit.
Oh, no.
Don't do it, Raps. Don't do it.
Raps just destroys the tent.
No.
Mrr. Raps
Gonna
hate
say-
product placement. Raps hate Final Fantasy 15.
Raps can sense there was someone bigger and stronger than him at one point in this area, and he doesn't like it.
Whoa, we got XP.
Oh, it's because of the party sheet. Yeah, you can ignore that.
Hell
But
yeah. I'm still excited.
you have more XP than that. Don't worry.
Yay.
But yeah, it's because it's the first time I've ever actually pushed the long rest button, so it finally gave you the XP from one of your many, many fights a long time ago.
Alright, well, while everybody is prepping for snoozes,
Yeah.
Penelope steps over to the ghost and be like, alright, I'm gonna level with you. Don't pop through the wall of the tent tonight, please.
Why?
Sleep.
Why?
Because I need to sleep. Sleeping
Okay.
is important.
You should sleep.
I will. Please don't pop through the tent.
Why?
We've been over this.
Okay.
Thank you. What are you not gonna do?
Sleep.
No, oh Jesus. Well, she's also gonna check it or like pull out her phone and just check again to see if it's working.
Unfortunately not.
Just gonna sigh and put it back in bed.
Anise is gonna go collect a bunch of like leaves and foliage and stuff, and just kind of sleep outside the tent because I don't think there's room.
And it's big enough for Raps to fit in. Make Raps sleep outside.
Yeah, Raps is going to be sleeping in his box. You don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, it's just a very large tent.
Ah, okay. Well, Anise is kind of a goblin, so she'll just move her pile of leaves and stuff into the tent.
There you go.
That looks cozy.
It's a nest.
Yes, I am literally making a nest.
Penelope like making a little, you know, like when you lay the blankets and shit on the floor to God. Just making like a makeshift little floor bed. Doing her best with what's available.
I
Wasn't
mean,
prepared.
It's fair. Like, it is the tiny life.
When you got on that train 2 days ago.
You've had a very busy 2 days. Like, you literally met a day ago. Such is the adventure of narrative speed.
Yep.
Like, yesterday you went to McDonald's for lunch. And this is where you are now.
Fine. Don't worry.
Sleeping on top of a rock in some haunted woods
It's fine.
In the shadow of a castle.
with a giant bitch tree. Surely we won't have weird dreams.
I mean,
hope we don't.
you have weird dreams when you're awake.
That's true.
But no, actually, so assuming everyone actually does go to sleep, you rest pretty easily.
I think Anise would probably try and write down as much as she could remember from the weird visions
Sure.
of being the lady that made the bad decisions.
Yeah. It's true. She made the bad decisions, and you had the luxury of being a third party who could actually watch the influence happening. She probably thought she came to those decisions on her own. Like, you've got enough experience knowing that this is a world that has enchanters and enchantresses to know that things like that definitely happen and it's never okay.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was pushing her in a direction and then giving her shit for it.
Quite a bit more complicated than just fighting a giant tree, I'm afraid.
That's lately.
But yeah, so like if no one does anything else, like you do successfully sleep, nothing attacks you in your sleep, you actually have a fairly peaceful night, all things considered.
I'm gonna roll a dice, see if Penelope snores. She really definitely snores.
Anise moves her little goblin leaf bed outside. Prefer to sleep under the stars. She's just like, Penelope's here in the tents where she is. She's just like literally all the way over there.
Okay, so when she comes out, she can see Kwaku lying down in his little sleeping bag, and apparently there were like earmuffs or something in that giant box that Raps carries around, because he is trying his best to sleep through the noise that is Penelope with middling success.
It's just a snooze.
No, you rolled a 1.
You rolled a 1. You're aggressively snoring. We've all been to cons with the people who snore. We know.
It wakes you up a few times.
Just startles herself awake like, ah! She just leans out of the tent. Sorry.
Sleeping.
Really sorry.
Go back to sleep.
Oh no, now I'm in this tent alone. Ghost Buddy, you can come through the wall, it's fine.
Ghost Buddy comes up through the floor.
Damn it!
This is not the wall.
I'm just out here sleeping under the stars, chilling with my bird friend.
It's true. Your bird friend keeps wandering around. It doesn't seem to be tired.
Where's Akovia? Is she in the tent?
She's sort of plopped up outside. She doesn't seem to be sleeping.
Oh, she doesn't need to sleep.
She doesn't really need to sleep. She's not exactly active either. It kind of reminds you of what you've seen elves do.
Ah.
Like, it's not really a trance so much as just, like, she's just sort of shifted into low energy mode. But yeah, she seems fine. The cold doesn't seem to really be impacting her much anyway.
That's for going back to sleep.
You did it. You got back to sleep.
No, it's more of a little like.
Anise does not come back inside. She
Nice.
actually kind of enjoys being out and being able to see the stars and nature. And
It's true. Also, a thing that you feel now that you're out here and you've got less pressure on you is that because so much of the ley line for this area is passing specifically through this space, and it's being diffused in a bunch of different directions from the way that you set it up, you actually feel really at peace. Like, this is kind of the druid dream, just give or take haunted castles and evil trees. Like, you're remote from other civilization. The world around you feels like it's taken from the past before humanity screwed everything up. And this whole area, for all of its spooky murkiness, it does feel natural to you. Like, there's no pollution here. There's no, hum of fluorescent lights or any of that stuff. It's just nature. Like, reminds you of home.
as she's kind of drifting in and out of being able to sleep versus hearing Penelope snoring, she's thinking about how there was that ritual they mentioned with the heroic spirits. Supposedly the person that was able to complete it got a wish, and that would be her wish, would just to revert all of the world to be like this. No technology, no pollution, maybe not no humans. None of these newfangled electronics. None of these gas guzzling, pollution spewing vehicles.
Well, he's out.
Did you say snacks?
What?
What? No, she's just out.
She is.
Oh, I thought you said Penelope thinks about snacks. And I'm like, that's fair.
Penelope's like, they say that there's that holy grail wall that can grant you. Don't know why I'm giving her the accent. Give you a wish. My wish would be for infinite snacks, snooze, snore.
Snacks are the fourth true magic.
Oh no. Yeah, as she falls asleep, she just suddenly starts talking like.
Hi, I'm Anise.
Hi, I'm Anise. I have an accent. This is not the accent, but she's using it anyway. Apparently, she's Cockney now.
All British people sound the same to me. Every last one of them.
Hello, my name is Anise.
Hello, my name is Anise, and I am a charming snowflake.
Hi, I'm Penelope.
Hi, I'm Penelope, and I can't figure out my fucking accent. Or my voice.
My name is Penelope. I have a kazoo.
My wish is to fill the world with all kinds of terrible music. Just the worst music ever.
How did you know?
I don't know what ska is, but I think we need more of it. I traveled back in time to prevent dubstep. This will be my wish.
Oh no.
You've wubbed your last wub, community.
We cannot allow her to win the war.
But yeah, so
Actually know her wish.
in stark contrast to the horrors of the last day, you sleep pretty well. Everyone wakes up feeling refreshed. All of your spells are restored. All of your hit dice are restored, and your HP is full. All of your
Yay.
once-a-day abilities are back. You're at full power. And you see your bird wandering around still. Seems kind of curious. You see your bird go down into that crack.
Bird's on crack.
You can hear the bird fidgeting with something down there. You can see your bird crawl out of that crack with a thing.
Oh no.
The bird shows you its brand new teddy bear.
No! Bird, what have you done?
The bird floats around a little bit. Like just flying circles around with this teddy bear.
Oh god. We're gonna get haunted as hell. Fine. You guys sleep okay?
Anise is still asleep.
Oh, shit. Wog, would you sleep okay?
I did.
Sorry if my snoring kept you up.
Oh no, it's fine. I supplemented my I don't know a nice way to say this. Your snoring is incredibly loud, but it's fine. You gave me an opportunity to make noise-canceling earmuffs. The trick was to put even more spider web in them.
Oh, good.
Would you like to try them?
I'd rather not stuff spider webs in my ears.
It's more on your ears than in them.
Still not enjoying that idea.
That is fair. I respect that.
Maybe later.
Okay, well, seeing as it is a brand new day and none of us are showering, he then gestures with a little stick that he's holding that has a ball on the end of it. It's like a little metal stick with a metal ball at the end. And he cast what you can immediately identify as prestidigitation.
Woohoo!
And you are now clean. And
Yay.
your white outfit made from Einzberns robes is now clean again. And he proceeds to walk around and sort of wands over himself and everyone else to make everyone feel clean and refreshed.
Anise, wake up! Anise!
Nothing.
He just like creeps up and like just sits right beside Anise, like as close to her face as possible. Anise! Good morning! Wake up!
Nothing. She is still out.
We're gonna find a tree!
I think she is not up.
Yeah, that's stating the obvious.
Will we end the session when Anise wakes up?
Pretty much. Like we're not doing more tonight.
Okay.
Like the last thing that I want to show you is just gonna be happening in a sec. So I just wanted to see if like there was anything else that you guys want to do before that happened.
Anise rolls over and goes,
Just staring at her.
"Who this? Some tea, coffee, maybe the hot chili.
I hope not.
That'll wake you up." And falls back asleep.
No!
Okay, so Penelope, give me a perception check.
I need to remember at the before next session to like pick out my spells and stuff.
Yeah, you'll get to pick new ones for that. Like
Mhm.
that's part of why the long rest is a good way to stop because it gives you time to think about it.
Hell yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so Penelope, as she's struggling to get Anise up, she notices some movement out of the corner of her eye, and she can see a shadow that wasn't there before. And it looks like this.
Oh god.
So did the bird actually get the bear out of the crack?
Yep.
Oh.
And the bird is currently flying around with the bear in its little talons. And now this shadow is crawled out from the crack.
Oh god.
And it is... It's silent. Like, it doesn't make noise. But you can see it. And it is very large. And having experienced the source of this shadow before, Penelope kind of knows what this thing is. This is a... Like, you don't need to roll Arcana as a bard. You just know that this is a shade. This is an emotional leftover from something big. And presumably it's been hiding here for a while. You get the sense that you might have been in this thing for a little bit. And the bird, upon seeing this thing, squawks at the lot of you and then takes off with the bear toward the castle.
The squawking wakes Anise up. She sits up.
Okay.
Bird friend? Bird friend.
So when Anna sits up, she can see the bird carrying a bear, a stuffed bear, flying off in the direction of the castle, and a big, scary shadow thing chasing after it on the ground.
What did I miss?
The bird stole the bear that was down in the crack that I told everybody not to touch. And you know what what the bird did? Took the bear.
Why?
I don't know.
Do we need to be chasing after the bird?
I dare say that if the bird is pulling a big, scary ghost thing into the castle, it might be doing us a favor.
Do we have time for breakfast, you think? Or do we need to go right after it?
I don't think we're going to catch up either way, so if it comes down to it, the bird can always fly back. I don't believe the tree can reach it.
All right. Just produce flame, makes the campfire again, starts brewing some coffee. Did anyone bring any food?
I mean, you did get some food from Gunter before you left.
Do,
It wasn't
we-
just Yeehaw chili.
do we need to bust out the Yeehaw chili? I know he sent other food with us, and I've got some snacks and trail rations and things.
I'd rather avoid eating the hot chili as long as possible.
There probably aren't like birds that live in this area, I would imagine.
Probably not many. Like, you know, there were obviously animals in the forest, but you haven't seen a whole lot of birds specifically. Like, in fact, now that you think about it, this bird is one of the only ones you've seen since you got here.
Well, dare I say there probably aren't any eggs around. Yeehaw chili it is.
Oh boy, my favorite breakfast.
Oh boy. I'll get the crackers.
Yeehaw.
And he reaches into the steamer trunk that he carries around, and he pulls out a pack of saltines and straight up a bag of cheese. We might need the dairy. And with that, you have your amazing breakfast feast. Not quite a hero's feast, as you prepare to go do battle with a giant tree.
Yay!
Breakfast
Hurrah.
of champions.
You did it. Now you have a lot of information about the history of this place, which I promise was not just random fanfic thrown at you.
Well, we cut the tree off from all of the sources.
It's true.
All of it. I was curious about if I pulled on the one ley line that was going into the ground, what would happen, but it's probably for the best.
I mean, you can always come back later if you want to find out. Theoretically, if you defeat the tree, you're going to need to reset at least some of these things anyway. Or not. Actually, you've kind of repositioned them for pretty solid new functions. Like, you might want to not reinforce the saber one so much later, but it'll be up to you. You're kind of the boss of this entire region now because no one else here can do that. And no one else knows it exists.
You are the boss ass bitch.
I redirect the streams so that they form the shape of a giant dick.
I mean, you could. That is your right as a geomancer.
And then I just leave. No.
Many people have amazing legacies. Some people create homunculi. I turned a giant region of Germany into a dick butt.
Or a hand giving the middle finger.
Oh no.
Such is your legacy. Honestly, I can't wait to see what you klepto out of a giant abandoned castle.
I haven't had many opportunities to steal stuff lately.
It's true. Well, you're about to go to a castle that has no occupants because they're all dead.
So it's grave robbing, not...
I mean, technically, I guess, by inheritance, Echo owns the castle? But she doesn't live there, so take that as you will.
It's her summer home.
It's the scenic winter castle to go with the summer castle that you have in Japan. Because the Einzberns are ridiculously wealthy.
But it's always snowing at both.
Yep.
Somehow.
Well, you know why it's always snowing here, at least. You found it.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is weird because I don't think that the timeline for when Fate Stay Night takes place really makes any sense for there to be that much snow at the Einzbern castle.
Maybe they did the same thing. Who knows?
Could be. But yeah, we did it. So next week, we legitimately get to go fight a tree.
Woo!
Penelope, what did you 19?
I don't know.
Excellent. The important thing is that Anise rolls 1s and 20s, and because she rolled a 20 on fixing a screw up, she is now directly responsible for the Holy Grail War existing.
Oh no!
Because you created the homunculi that makes it possible.
Oh good. Good job. Well,
I was comfortable with you just rolling that to see if you get stuff splashed on your face, but you actually caused the Holy Grail War.
Huh.
Which
Oh,
means
God.
every timeline where Shinji dies, it's on you.
Closing fantasy rounds now.
Oh,
That's a lot.
I didn't want to see the 364 I rolled.
You did it. There's a 20 in there.
There's a 20.
There are
There's
also
several
4 ones. But yep, that'll be good for now. Next session, we are definitely actually fighting a giant tree. And
Hooray!
assuming the giant tree doesn't kill everyone, or even if it does, we will be done with this leg of the story.
Yay!
Hurrah.
And then maybe eventually Penelope will have cell phone service.
I mean, it's possible. The Einzberns have an actual phone.
That they do.
You could just go use a landline and have the adventures of Penelope learning how to use a really old phone.
Now here's the real question. If nobody's lived there in years, how do they still have a connected landline?
Because they're rich.
It's like the bill still gets paid every month, so sure.
The fun thing about having a golem handle all of your finances is that it's impossible for him to forget to do his job. So long as they've got gold, they're good.
Oh,
Maybe you could go look for that. Well,
oh my goodness.
thank you for sitting through our community theater episode. Thanks, the internet. I promise we'll be back to hitting things next time.
Thanks, internet.
Good night, Twitch and Facebook and everything. See you next week.
Yee.